there, ref. That's he got the ball. Good evening, Tottenham fans. Hopefully you're all keeping well and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur for the fan show, where it is your chance to come on and have your say about all things Tottenham. Every Monday at 7 p.m. is your opportunity, so make sure if you are a fan show member or above, make sure you click on the link in the community section and it will bring you straight into the back end and we'll get you on to have your say. Unfortunately, it's not on winning terms tonight. It is off the back of an absolute disaster performance against Crystal Palace. And do you know what, lads and ladies out there? I'm struggling with this one because I think off the back of Leicester, Newcastle, Arsenal, the Brighton game to a degree, there were elements you could pull out where you would say, there was maybe a silver lining or stuff that were good about that game. This Crystal Palace game, we were absolutely useless. We couldn't get out from the back whatsoever. We kept on trying to do the same thing. Even when we went 4-4-2 at one point, with two strikers up top again, when we got the ball up front, we couldn't hold it up. It wouldn't stick. Avoid the creativity. I think our first shot on goal was like 30 minutes in, which is absolutely disgraceful. And what sums it up most, and I was actually thinking about this today, Edozie and Porro, when have we seen them playing so far back in a proper back four where they couldn't get out their own half up into the final third to deliver crosses or get up with play, which shows how bad we really were yesterday. Nowhere near good enough. I know Vicario's come out and sort of after the game, to the away fans, the apologies and all. I'm absolutely fed up with apologies at Tottenham Hotspur. And this isn't just aimed at Vicario, because at the end of the day, I appreciate the gesture. They realise how bad they were. But we've seen this so many times from different Spurs squads in years gone by. I'm at the point, I don't want apologies anymore. I just want action on the football field. All this stuff in press conferences and coming out in questions and all that. So I get their role out there. They have to answer these questions. But I don't want to hear it anymore. I just want to see the action on the football pitch. Also, you come out of that game, without Son. Again, you have questions across that forward line. Is there anyone that can step up and be that magic maker? Probably not when you look at that now. Lack of leadership, again, we keep asking that question on the football pitch. And ultimately, you look at Postecoglou's tenure since he's been here. I have a stat there. I think I calculated it. 1 second. I'll bring it up for I'll just read it out to everybody. And it sort of begs the question. So record in the Premier League under Ange Postecoglou, 47 games, 24 wins, 7 draws on 16 losses. So it's a pretty inconsistent run. We've had good runs where have been very impressive winning streaks and some extended periods without a win. So it begs the question, a lot of people after the game yesterday suggesting Ange out, he's out of his depth. Or is it a manager that's just enduring the challenges that come with a rebuilding of the squad and lack of leadership right now until them sort of naturally emerge? Do let us know your thoughts on that. Plus plenty of other questions. The triple substitution. I think he brought off Mikey Moore, James Maddison, and Kulusevski. Brought on Timo Werner, Richarlison, and Papa Matasar. What's people's thoughts on that? Was that the wrong substitution? And what's your expectations now heading into the Man City game on Wednesday night? We have a lot to talk about tonight, Jacko. How are you?
Great intro, Dave. I'm doing the best I can. Was able to play some FIFA with some of you guys last night, which did brighten the mood and just sort of gave me that kind of family type feeling, after a bad loss like that one. But I agree with you. This one is a tough one to take, a hard one to take, a confusing one to understand. I think the confusing aspect to it is I can't really use some of the same reasons I've used before as either explanations or excuses for why we lost. I think in this game, really, it came down to a real lack of effort in certain periods to try to get back into the game and also to show that sense of leadership to pull each other together. But then also in this game, which I haven't said too often this season, I do feel like we were tactically, like you probably said as well, tactically, I think we were exposed and we were outclassed and we just got simply outsmarted. And it took us forever to even start to get some sort of type of pullback into the game, some type of momentum. Took probably until like the 70th minute until we really started maybe knocking on the door just a little bit with Crystal Palace. But by then, they should have been already well and gone. So this was a very clear, obvious winner. This was a game that we were just simply outdone in pretty much every aspect, from effort to tactics. And I wouldn't say I've said that much this season. I think majority of the times when we haven't had a great result, I've more blamed kind of just individual mistakes, maybe more individuals in general, and then also kind of a lack of finishing and a lack of composure. in certain scenarios. But I couldn't even say that with this game. It's actually very different reasons, and that's what's kind of hard to take as well as confusing to take.
And also, two more things to add to that as well, Jack. You know, I noticed when teams turn up the heat on us a little bit and the going gets tough, we absolutely crumble. We don't have the answers to it. We do not like it whatsoever. We're a team that likes to look pretty on the ball, but we don't really like, you know, teams putting pressure on us or making challenges on us. They're going to have to learn to start standing up and fighting. And then lastly is the words coming out from Postecoglou. That's twice, the Brighton game and the Palace game, where he's attributed the team struggles to lack of application. Guglielmo Vicario again came out after the game stating that his teammates were lacking in fight and couldn't match the desire displayed by Palace players. He literally said they fought hard, and I think we lacked that. We play good football, but at times we may lack the willingness to fight. They demonstrate a genius or a genuine desire to compete for something. So, you know, if Palace players have a desire to compete for something and we don't, I want to know who's responsible for that. The individual players, the squad's leadership group, or Ange Postecoglou himself. So just a few things to think about out there. Let's start welcoming some people in the chat. Let's hear what they have to say, and then we will start getting through the guests. We have Rhino in here. He says, big up, Dave and Jack. How are you both?
I could take the chat because for some reason it's kind of funny. Like, I can hear your voice, but do you notice that you're disappeared on the camera?
No.
Like, there is no Dave.
Oh, okay. Give me 1 second. Yeah, you take over.
And I'm seeing it also as well on the phone, which is actually kind of funny. Just Dave disappearing while still talking, like Ghost Dave in theme of the holidays of the Halloween. Maybe that's Dave's costume, just to disappear while also still speaking. Tottenham Forever, Rhino saying, pick up Dave and Jack. Hope you're both doing okay. How loud are you happy clapping, if at all? Much love to you both. Not happy clapping too much, but hopefully prepared to start happy clapping after Wednesday. Rhino, good to see Dermatron in here. I don't think he'll be able to join us today, which is a real loss, because I think we do like to have a bit of Dermot to cheer ourselves up. And he says, we move on. I'm still an Ange we trust. Yesterday was a bad day at the office. All on the players, not on Ange for me on this one. The players have to step up, be men, not boys. You never let the bullies win. And we did. Mark News saying, big up, Dave and Jack. It was a tough watch versus Palace. To be fair, they wanted it more than us. We got to step up versus City and Villa. Will Mikey Moore and Johnson and Solanke raise their game? Question mark. Well, I think a few of them need to. Mikey Moore, I don't think really should be lumped into the blame that much. And to be fair, in that first half, we didn't create much of anything. But if the chances you were to look at that Spurs did create, I'd say Mikey Moore kind of played a decent part in some of them. That's just my opinion, though. Good to see Edward in here. We'll definitely be speaking to him, and I think we'll be speaking to him first. I think he'll be kicking things off today. Eugene is in here as well. He'll be in here nice and early, too, to have a chat with us. He's going to be the second on deck. And I'll pass this off back to you, Dave. Like I said, in holiday Halloween season, you disappeared, while still talking Ghost Dave for Halloween.
No, do you know what it is? I just need to sort of, over the next international break, get all my wires redone and stuff like that, because I got a wire that's going into the camera that's dodgy. So whenever I move it with my feet, where it's plugged in and shit, it sort of just, messes around a little. So don't worry, sorted now. I'm back. We've got Chris says, I had a bad feeling yesterday morning we would lose to Palace. My thoughts were right way, even Dave and Jack. Do you know what, Chris? I was saying all week to Jack that I was nervous about going to Palace. It's a tight pitch. I didn't think we would be able to play our style of football at that pitch. I did think we would need something a little bit different. And look, it turned out to be a tough fixture on the day, but you would argue we made it tougher by not turning up, you know. Big up Adrian Schrock as well. Good evening. Good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. Is he in the back end? Did I see him in the back end? Yes, we would be having a conversation with him as well tonight. Let's hear what he has to say. Chris says, I don't want to get your channel banned, so I best stay off tonight. I think a lot of people are probably feeling like that, to be honest, Chris. I don't think anyone really wants to, deal with the fallout from the Palace game. It was that bad, to be brutally honest with you. But look, it's always there if you do want to come on and have your say, my man. We've got Richard Freckleton. Good to see you, sir. He says, totally deflated after this result. I know you both want continuity. Jack, how'd you say it? Continuity.
Yeah,
but
continuity.
This isn't the man to take us forward as a manager. You can't be one-dimensional. Look, I think that's the big debate around Spurs fans, right? Because look, you get it both sides. You get the people that have not a bad word to say about Ange and won't look into the flaws or whatever else, and you've got the other people who I think, sometimes paint the picture worse than what it is at times. I think that can be said for both sides. Where I sit is somewhere in the middle. I don't believe hiring and firing managers is the right thing to keep doing at Tottenham Hotspur. That's been proven. At some point, I think when you look around other Premier League clubs, I think stability is the answer. When you look at what Arsenal done with Arteta, it wasn't rosy at the start. Similar split in the fan base between Arteta out, Arteta in, and they stuck by the process. Look where it brought them. You look at the teams that have challenged Guardiola over the years since he's been here. Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp, how long was that together before it sort of bared fruits? And I do think and to be honest with you as well, I don't think changing manager is going to change too much. It might change style, philosophy a little bit and stuff like that. I think you might even get the initial manager bounce, but do we want to keep relying on that? We had that under Conte, we had that under Jose, we had that under Nuno at the start, we had a 10-game streak under Postecoglou last season at the start. You bring in another manager, you might get another new manager bounce, but you might end up facing the same problems, and I think we will personally, because look, I highlighted it in the summer. I don't think we've done enough across the forward line to be able to sustain, a consistent run over the course of the whole season. I did think it'd come back to bite us somewhere on the ass. And also, when it comes to Postecoglou, I don't think he's as bad as people make him out to be. First of all, I think even if you change manager, I still think the same problems will arise because the lack of leadership in the dressing room, personally. So I don't think that's really going to change too much. I still think you see some of the same old failings under a new manager. But with Postecoglou, look, some people say he's out of his depth. He walked in the Premier League last year and finished fifth. So he can't be too far out of his depth. He can't be as bad as people make him out to be. Then the next one is, also you look at Conte and Jose. People were saying, you look at them, look at their records. You would say, well, they clearly have a clue what they're doing in management. They came to Tottenham Hotspur, and look how it turned out for them. Again, they were left here with us saying they're too old, they haven't a clue, they're outdated, this, that, and the other. I'm sorry to break it to you, but not every manager that comes to Tottenham can be wrong. At some point, you're going to have to go through the process. You are going to have to go through a bit of pain. But like I said, I'm sort of stuck in the middle with it right now. I do think there's elements where if we get certain things right, we can push on. Like I did say over the summer, I thought we should have brought in some more experienced players than some of the younger players that we did bring in. I think we're paying the price for that right now, personally, already, not having them sort of experienced players, because I don't think you would see the collapse against Brighton or the collapse against Palace that we seen yesterday if we would have done that. So that didn't help him to a large degree. I think people have to remember he had to come in and integrate a whole new back line, a new goalkeeper for the first time in a decade, and he's the first manager post Harry Kane to have to deal with that problem up front. And he's got a whole new squad, which takes time to blend everything together and for your leaders to start emerging out of it. Is Postecoglou doing everything correctly? No, there are things that maybe you look at and you can pull him out for. His in-game management at times can be piss poor. Brutally honest, can be piss poor. The inconsistencies isn't good enough, at times. But at the end of the day, I think most managers are going to suffer the same sort of problem at Tottenham Hotspur. So for me, I'm not going to be too quick to knee-jerk, Richard, because I think given a good transfer window, the right transfer window in January or next summer, I really think you can see this project kick on. So I'm going to hold out for another sort of transfer window, another summer under Ange Postecoglou before I sort of really knee-jerk, to be honest with you, and make my decision on him. Of course, if things start getting terribly worse between now and the end of the season, he'll have to go. But the weird thing is, what we're seeing at Tottenham, we can go on some incredible winning streaks, but then we can also go for a period with losing games. And I don't think that's entirely on Postecoglou. And by sacking Postecoglou, is all of Tottenham's problems going to go away? I don't think so. When Conte walked, when Jose walked, all the problems that Tottenham Hotspur and people attributed to them, they're still here after they've gone. So I don't believe changing manager 100% is the right thing to do, Richard, right now, to be brutally honest with you. King Huddle says, under Ange, 55 points at home, 31 points away. Vast disparity away games are one, a mentality test players, and two, they present different tactical challenges. Managers, we are failing on both counts. Mark says, come on, Asteroid, us Spurs fans are ready. Scott Hynam says, big up to all. Come on, you Spurs. Good to see you. We've got Phil Coyce. Spurs sucked the life out of me towards the end of Conte's tenure, and it's happened again with Ange, especially after these defeats against Brighton and Palace. It's the manner of the defeats as well. No, look, fair enough. I think, it's fair enough. I think you're entitled to the way you feel. Phil Coyce, Mark Cook says, big up to you both. Hope you're well, keeping well. Mark Cook, hopefully you're keeping well, sir. We've got Saray, big up Dave and Jack. Hope you're doing well. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir, as well as we can do, to be honest. DJ Green Alert, how do I feel after what I saw? I was thinking the second we started playing tippy-tappy stuff, we were going to lose. You cannot play that way away from home when they do a high press. It's ludicrous. And here's the thing, I do think tactically Ange got outclassed yesterday by Ollie Glasner. I do think he got tactically outclassed yesterday, to be fair. Taking same old, bully physically, but the bigger team using Dermot's words. Absolutely spot on, fair point. Darren Kilban, I think it's time for Ange to go. It's poison every away game apart from the United one. Ange making excuses and the players apologising over and over, but nothing changes, not good enough at all. Whereas we've got effing hell says we got no chance of winning against City or Aston Villa. I think many people are probably of the same mindset right now. Oder S. Fasir, White Hart Lane has become a holiday spa. These players are prepared, but are pampered beyond belief and soft. I think it's hard to disagree, to be brutally honest. Big up Hotspur J, big up Dave and Jack. Good to see you. Who else have we got here? We've got Rob Old says, I'm getting used to being Brentford, a run of form for 3 games, then 4 points from 4 games, lose by a goal to better teams, fighting for their lives. A year now of Fulham and Brentford level. You could argue it's probably been longer than a year though, right? Sebas Wolf, big up boys. Romero's frustrating me so much. Great player, but sometimes he makes some stupid decisions, and he's done way too many of them this season. I don't feel he's fully focused on us, and I think you're absolutely spot on. I think many people will question that, to be brutally honest, with a lot of his performances this season. They have been way off the mark. They haven't been good enough, and to be honest, he hasn't really emerged as the leader that maybe his performances or the grit and the sort of character that he plays on the football pitch. You know, he hasn't really emerged as that sort of leader. Iceman, good evening. All pissed off with that result. We need to bounce back pretty quickly, very, very quickly. I would add. Nomad, I get slaughtered because I said I wasn't convinced after the West Ham game. We are clueless defending as a team. We've got Ryan Garcia. I was entertained. No doubt you were. Good to see you, DJ Samuels. Peter Simon says the players weren't up for the fight. That's down to Ange, and it's not the first time. We've got DB evening, boys. How you feeling? As you can see, I think our faces probably sum it up. DB Peter Kagawa says, hi all, 6:18 a.m. in Melbourne. Good to see you. The Big D, the inconsistency is not enjoyable. We got exactly what we deserved, in fairness. Tough one to take. Why do Spurs do this to me? Hope all is well, fellas, and the chat. I think we're all asking the same question, to be brutally honest with you. But look, we're suckers for it, right? We go into the games expecting the best. We come out with the worst, and we'll go into the City game expecting the best again. We're absolutely fools for it. Andy English, 135. Evening, lads and ladies. Good to see you, sir. Hopefully you're keeping well. Darren Caban, great to see you. We've lost 4 and 9. It's not good enough. We've also got Delhi 20. Hi, Irish. What a poor performance yesterday. I think they turned up believing it would be a walkover. I think there's definitely an element of that for sure. Like I said, I think we've maybe developing into a team of prima donnas that don't like getting going when the going gets tough. We've got Mark David Arteta won FA Cup in his first season, though. Yeah, but to be fair, in that first season, he had a lot of sort of experienced players that was off the back of Unai Emery, who was there before that. But since he's changed that squad, they haven't won a thing. So I think it's a fair point to make, Mark. But I do get what you're saying to a certain degree. Sebastian SF, maybe nostalgia bias, but I'm sure Pochettino would happily walk away from the US job for Tottenham. I'm not sure about that. I think it's going to take a bigger contract than what many people think, to be brutally honest with you, my man. Cockney Geezer says Ange has to go. Zoe also says, Dave, spitting facts as usual. I don't know about facts. It's just my opinion, but I really appreciate it. Zoe, NAP, many Spurs fans do not expect the team to win or challenge for the Premier League. However, despite this, they're expecting consistency in the performances of a team that would be challenged to win the Premier League. I think that's a very fair point. Many people said they wouldn't really care about the league. It was about the Cups this season. Paul Endorse says, Ange is learning about the Premier League as well. Teams can stop you playing. Nobody stops Celtic playing in Scotland. I think that's a very fair point. We're going to take 2 or 3 more, and then, guys, we will crack on because I am aged behind. We've got RST from now until the end of November. This is a big month for Ange. We need to go on a serious win run. I think if we struggle this month, he'll be in trouble. I'm still Ange. The overall form is poor, and we're on pace for a worse season in 5 years, which is what Poch got fired for. Fair point. Enigma 6, we are only beating crap teams like Coventry, Ferencváros, Karabag. Fair point. I would say it wasn't so long ago we were being beaten by teams like that, to be absolutely fair. Sports Lover, it's the only issue I have with Andrews constantly playing for the back, out from the back when Vic is under pressure. Besides that, he's Ange in, and then we'll take 2 more, and then we are going to crack on. SOF, I wasn't sold on Ange when he was hired, and nothing has done this. Nothing he has done this far has changed my mind. I don't mind giving him a few more months, but I want to see some more consistency. I think that's very
balanced.
Fair. Yeah. Big up SOF on that one. And then, yeah, I think we're just going to crack on. We're going to start getting the guests on. We're going to start hearing what they have to say. But look, even if you don't want to come on or you can't get on, you can still participate by getting your comments, questions, and that in the chat. We'll do our best to get through every single one of them, so don't go anywhere. Don't feel like we're going to neglect you or ignore you. That's not the case. We will keep an eye on the chat, so get your questions and comments in. And by the way, when the guests do come on and have to say, feel free to put questions towards them or rebuttals or what you agree with. Don't be afraid, and we'll bring them up for them. But look, let's kick this off. Let's start off with the one and only Eddie the Eagle. Eddie, I think what we'll do is we'll start by asking your opinions on yesterday's game. And then I'm pretty sure you're probably going to want to address Ange out at this moment in time, right? I guess that's why you're here tonight.
Oh, maybe, yeah. It's But yeah, my opinion on yesterday was a shocking performance all around, like from back to front. No, there was no fight in the team, no real. It didn't look like the players were up for it, or they actually were trying to win that game. It looked like they could just wanted to come in there and walk over Palace. Palace was always going to be a hard game. I did predict a big scoreline in the end. That's just how I am. I love predicting big scorelines, but yeah, it was never going to be an easy game. It's at Selhurst Park. Lots of teams struggle there. Liverpool struggle there. Arsenal struggle there. Man City can struggle there sometimes.
Is that an excuse, though? Is that an excuse, though, Eddie? Like, you know, yeah, they've had their struggles there. And look, obviously, it's not going to be a walkover. But, you know, it's the way we turned up. You know, yeah, we struggled, but we tactically we got outclassed. You know, we allowed the same thing to happen for a good 60, 70 minutes. 25, 20 minutes in, I was screaming for us to start bypassing the press and start hitting the channels and push Palace back up in their own half. So, you know, are we using that as an excuse?
Somewhat, probably. Trying to cover up our behinds here, but it does come down to the players wasn't up for it, and Ainge didn't get tactically outclassed that game. He didn't do much to actually affect the game. Definitely should have make some changes. Should not definitely probably taken off. I would say Kulu at halftime. Kulu wasn't having the greatest of games. Bring on Papapatasar or even Madison. Just change that midfield. That midfield needed to be changed at halftime. It wasn't doing much, and it wasn't helping us going forward. That's for sure. And the goal we could see there was such a weak goal. We got to do better from that sort of thing. It's just, I don't know what the defense was doing there. It's just to let Mateta score from there. It's just ridiculous. In our own 6-yard box, there's a bunch of players around. It's just not on, in my opinion. But yeah, it's a shocking game. Hoping that for the future we can go on and do better in the next 2 games coming.
Well, look, I think, you know, the fan base definitely want to see a response against Man City. We can't go out there and get rolled over easy like we did against Palace or like we did against Brighton in the second half. I think the saving grace is that we're at home. Home form is actually pretty decent. But let's take Crocodile Super Chat here together as a trio. We can all sing Kumbaya together. Big up, Crocodile. Good to see you, sir. Says, hi, fellas. I'm starting to accept that we are sliding into mid-table status as a club. By the time the kids come good, our best players will go. I can see people making that argument, but to be honest with you, I think most people agree since Pochettino, we've been threading water, sort of hanging on to that top 8, sort of, you know, by the skin of our teeth, clawing it back. And look, the inconsistencies isn't good enough, but I feel like we know we needed a rebuild at this football club. We know we needed to freshen the playing squad. That it was, you know, not one manager was going to come in and get it right. You know, most clubs, when they go through rebuild, go through a couple of managers before they eventually get the right guy in. But I think many people maybe feel like this is the right time to sort of sit back and go through the pain. You got to remember, you know, first of all, we dodged a massive bullet by not bringing in Eric Ten Hag, by the way. You know, so we should actually sort of be grateful for that to a large extent. But when it comes to Ange Postecoglou, you know, he's different to Jose Mourinho and Conte. He's not going to sit there and call out the owners in press conferences. He's going to work to their sort of remits. That's why he's got the job in the first place. But he's also not going to sit there and bemoan his luck. He knows what this job entails. He knows how big it is. And he's willing to try and find the right things to put in place to help bring it forward rather than sit there and moan about what he doesn't have. And I think to a large degree, whether people like it or not, I think ultimately, that's the sort of manager we need at Tottenham Hotspur. Pochettino was that guy to a large degree. Harry Redknapp was that guy to a large degree, where they would work with Daniel Levy to a certain degree, to the remit, and do the best they can within that. And I do think, where we are as a top six, or what we were as a top sort of six established football club, where we are now, we were always going to fall down a little bit when this rebuild was going to come around. Thankfully, we haven't dropped into the bottom half of the table yet, or down as far as mid-table yet. But I think if we keep chopping and changing managers, to be honest, Crocodiles, I think that's how we will end up falling further down the table. You look at Everton's fall from grace. When they had David Moyes and stability, he brought them to Champions League football. Once he walked away, they've gone from a team that used to finish in the top half of the Premier League down to a team scrapping relegation. And look how much they changed their managers. When teams get relegated, they're often the team that's changed the managers most over the course of a season. So that's why I'm not too quick to knee-jerk, because I think it's very well good saying what we've got now is mid-table, but chopping and changing directions, eventually your squad is going to get in a mess, your finances is going to get in a mess, and it's going to get worse. And that's why I fear sacking another manager and going through another process, another rebuild. Because again, if we keep doing this every 14 to 16 months, we are going to fall further down the table. Look at Man United to a large degree. Look how many managers they're going through. They're falling further and further down, chopping and changing direction. So I don't necessarily feel that is the best direction to go. But Jack, and then we'll get Eddie in on this. He says, Andrew's getting a pass purely on style of play, I feel. Jack, what's your thoughts on that? Because I remember when it was coming to the end of Conte's tenure, when Conte was sacked, a lot of fans did say that style of play did matter. They did want to play attacking football. They wanted to play the Tottenham way. You're on mute, Jack.
Sorry about that. Crocdox, I think, is making a decent point that, like, if you play a more progressive attacking style of play, you do technically get sometimes a bit of a pass. But I think that's standard with just football in general and just football fans in general. I think the majority of football fans would like to be entertained and to feel like their team does play kind of a style that does end up dominating teams. You have the majority of possession, you're attacking in the final third, you're creating chances on a regular basis, and you get to really enjoy watching your team play instead of kind of, watching them defend against their own goal for 90 minutes and look to hit teams on the counter and kind of snag 3 points here and there. I think majority of people do want an attacking on the front foot style of play. And with that takes time, and with that takes patience and building and a lot of, kind of training ground type stuff, as well as in-game scenarios to get better and better. And I think managers, if they employ that sort of style, will get more patience, more kind of benefit of the doubt, more kind of just leeway from both fans as well as also clubs, because I think it's just where football is headed. So is Ange getting maybe more of a pass because of his style of play? I kind of would say yes, but that's not, his own fault or anything like that. I actually think that's how football is nowadays. I think if he were at Manchester United, I think he would be given more of a pass than what Ten Hag was given. If he had the same record Ten Hag did, but let's say he did play a more style, attacking type brand of football, I think Man United fans would not have sacked him. And I don't think actually the club would have sacked him because they feel like they can get behind the system and everything. So it's just how it is nowadays. I think attacking football is more popular, and therefore you get a longer leash.
Do you agree with that, Eddie? Because, with Jose and Conte, it is something that I think we're going to talk about maybe tomorrow or sometime this week, that it feels like because of their defensive football, as soon as results went bad, fans were very, very quick to turn them. I'd argue a lot quicker than what they are with, and the board as well, than what they are with Postecoglou. I think with Postecoglou, there does seem to be a bit more resilience, within the Spurs fan base to keep this guy in the job and sort of see where it goes. Is that partly to do because like Crocodile says here, he's getting a pass because of the style of football?
That's difficult because there is a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people wanting Ainge to be sacked right now, and it has been for quite a while. Pretty much after every poor performance, has always been a bit of, a bit of people, a bit of the part of Spurs fan base which has come out and got wanting Ainge's head. So to say getting a pass is sort of a overstatement because he isn't really getting a pass, but a lot of these fans never wanted Ainge in the first place, and they're waiting for him to mess up or waiting for a loss to happen to jump on this bandwagon and to jump on this, get him out of this club because he's not performing. But I feel like for some Spurs fans, he has been probably is getting the pass because of the style of play, because the last style of play was just that horrendous, and we were playing a back three, and it was just such a horrible watch. We were getting battered everywhere we went. Just wasn't a great watch, and probably for some, it's 50-50 really. Some Spurs fans are giving him a pass because of it, others aren't. So yes and no to that sort of question. We'll see how it goes in the future, but I feel like this style of football will lead to trophies. I feel like this season we are going to win a trophy. Even after this poor performance, I still see us lifting that Europa League Cup. I still see us probably lifting the FA or the Carabao Cup. And yeah, we'll win something. And once we win something, Spurs fans won't even care anymore. They'll be jumping in the air, going Ainge in all day. So yeah, and it's just gonna end up being forgotten once we won the trophy.
Crocodiles, it's a hard one because I do think there's an element like if we can bring a lot more consistency to what we're doing and it can bring us to trophies, it'd be the best style of football and the best way to be able to win trophies. It's going to be so much more enjoyable. And plus, I think the fact that the likes of Nuno, Conte and Jose suck the absolute life out of the joy of football from Spurs fans, that the fact that Postecoglou is coming in and playing this style of football, I think people are willing to give it a lot longer. Plus, I think it's harder to implement this style of football and get it right than it is setting up in sort of a defensive nature. So I think that's probably why, people are willing to give him a bit longer in the job. But big up Crocodiles, my man. Really appreciate support. Please let me know your retort, as they say, posh word out of the dictionary in the chat, if you don't mind, and let us know what your feelings are on what we've had to say. But Eddie, we'll let you shoot on a little bit longer because you helped us with the super chat, my man. Anything you would like to address before we let you go?
I feel like Spurs fans really do need to get more patient, and they do need to calm down a bit of the sort of sacking of Ainge, jumping to the conclusion here. And they are also, I feel like this is a football fan in general. They're really short-term memory. We'll lose one game, they're all over the manager, all over the players. We'll win the next game. Oh my God, greatest club in the world. That sort of shit. Great players in the world. So you do got to give up to the fact that we are still in contention to win trophies, 4 trophies. We still can't tactically win the Premier League. We're still in the line for that sort of 4 different trophies. A lot of fans don't believe we are winning because of that performance yesterday. That performance to me is sort of, we went on a sort of a patch for me. I don't believe that sort of performance is going to affect us anyway. I feel like this is probably going to help us in the long run. Hopefully Ainge can learn from the performance, because the greatest thing about football and anything really, you learn from your losses, you learn from defeat, and hopefully he does take away from this performance, and we can go on to win something. I can see us winning against City this Carabao Cup game. Honestly, I just don't feel like City is in the right mind space to really do anything at the moment. They saw that Pep is saying he's not playing his first team in any of the cups, which is, I don't care. I just want a trophy, really. Play your second team, lose, mate. That's what you're doing, okay? Because they will lose. I can see us winning, probably scraping by 2-1 in the end. But yeah, because City just haven't. I think they're still hungover from last season after winning 4 in a row. They might go on to win 5. We'll see, but they are still, I think, a bit hungover from winning so much, and they're probably a bit mentally tired from that at the moment. So I think we'll win against Man City and probably beat Villa.
That's hilarious.
Just how we are.
Quickly, Eddie, before we do let you go, I promise. just I think Artist T put this earlier in the chat as well.
Yeah.
He's saying, question for you, was this the worst you've ever seen an Ange team perform?
Oh.
Quick answer on that.
I've watched so many Ange games and I watched so many Australian games, so that's hard because we are so shocking as Australia. No, I think the Newcastle game last season was worse. I think the Newcastle game against away was so much worse than this. I feel like it's that's probably the worst one I've seen. Next one being, I don't actually know what I would put as second because there's just been quite a few bad for the Australian teams. I'm just going to leave Australia out of this. Just in club football, I'll probably say, this is probably second. And then the third, I don't really have a third, truthfully. Didn't really watch much of Celtic, so I don't know much about that. But it just, we definitely, the Newcastle game last season was so much worse than this because we were just horrendous that game.
Appreciate you giving your answer on that one, Eddie, and thanks for getting us started, my friend. And hope to play you in FIFA sometime soon.
Yeah, Jacko. Maybe in a couple of days. I got work later today, so I'm gonna go to work. Not go to work, go to bed, and get some good sleep for that.
All right. And Artist T got back to you saying Fulham might have been one of the worst ones, and I definitely agree with that one as well from Artist T.
Bad. Yeah.
But Edward, appreciate you, sir. Thanks for getting us started.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
Come on, you Spurs.
Big
See
up,
Eddie.
Eddie. See you soon, my man. Have a good one.
See ya.
Oh, now there's a defense for Ange Postecoglou. Guys, let us know how you feel in the chat. Plenty of people are Ange out. You can see it now. They're starting to lose a lot of patience. We will bring up some comments as we continue to go along. We'll take this first from Sergeant Stressful. You're definitely all stressed right now. Says if Ange does go, another Prem team will pick him up and he will probably end up having massive success there. I don't believe that's the right choice. And he continues by saying, everyone is divided because Ange is a smart coach and his style of play absolutely destroys teams when executed. It's the off days, inconsistencies, and players' mentality which divides people's opinions. I mean, look, absolute great comment. I think it's a very fair comment. We'll start with what part do you want to address, Jack? And I'll go after you.
Maybe just quickly say this. I actually find this to be a great job at not necessarily saying, this is the right way to look at it. I think he's just sort of giving a really good bird's eye view at the whole situation of, the doubt or maybe just the question marks around Ange, where he has brilliantly brought up why people are convinced by Ange. And the reason people have been convinced by Ange is there has been a lot of really dominant, fun, exciting performances that feel like some of the best performances you've ever seen from a Tottenham Hotspur side, some of the best football you've ever seen. But then there also have been with that, there are these inconsistencies, kind of unexplainable kind of performances that are just completely terrible. And it feels like, you're about to get smacked up 6-7-0 kind of in a game. And what that sort of mix there, it makes it really hard for people to really have, I guess, a cohesive understanding of whether Ange is the right guy, whether he's the wrong guy, and that sort of type of thing. So I just mean to say, Dave, is that I appreciate Sergeant Stressful, great name for just kind of looking at it in a very good bird's eye view of kind of just the whole divide amongst the fan base in general over Ange. I think he's summarized this really well.
And Sebas Wolf says, great super chat.
What would you address to maybe the first one? Yeah.
I do think to the first one, I do think, there will be a lot of clubs looking at him. It wasn't so long ago, people were saying, why can't Spurs act like Brighton? And Brighton were looking for him. In fact, Ange Postecoglou turned them down to stay there and pick up a shitty League Cup, up in Scotland that he didn't win the season before because he promised it to the fan base, which says a lot about the guy, and he probably knew he would get a Premier League job. And look, I think a lot of teams, would look at what Ange Postecoglou is trying to do at Tottenham. You see the way modern day football is heading. A lot of managers coming off the block, they are looking to play on this front foot, sort of aggressive style attacking football. And I think a lot of clubs would look at it. And I think they would take a punt if he became available on the market for sure in the Premier League. And on this one, I think this is an absolute great comment. I do agree with him about the style of play. I think the Palace game was probably one of the only games where you say we've been pushed back as much as we were for the first time in a good year and a bit. I think on a whole, I think the way he sets up definitely forces the opposition back, whether they like to or not, Sergeant Stressful, with the way we play, with the way we try to build out from the back. But I think it works on more on larger pitches like we have at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, on tighter pitches against Selhurst Park. I do think there has to be a slight adaptation if teams do look to come out and press you. But I definitely agree with the first part that it does get teams back. And I do think it is something that I think a lot of managers are going to look to employ, but might have different variations off the back of it that might strengthen it up defensively or might make it a bit more potent going forward and adjust it as it sort of goes on. But look, that's why we brought him here in the first place from Celtic, because of that. And I don't think he's as bad as people make out. A lot of people don't know this, but as far as I'm aware, Pep Guardiola had a chance meeting with the Celtic owner at some point. They bumped into each other, and he was trying to pick his brains about a manager, and he basically put Postecoglou forward for the Celtic job, and that's why he ended up getting the job. So if Guardiola's recommending him, he can't be too bad to a large degree. And I think the biggest thing with Postecoglou is, especially people my generation, maybe older, is Postecoglou's coming with a complete different way to play the game than maybe what we were taught, what coaches of our era and all were maybe saying to play the game, in terms of the way he sets up. He doesn't really worry about too much defensively because he's so confident with the way he sets up. If you've got the right players and the clinical players, you're going to score more than enough goals to sort of beat the crap out of the opposition, but also beat the belief out of them. So in effect, going the other way, they're not really going to bother too much, or they're going to have a lot less belief. Where the problem comes in is if you're not taking your chances to kill them games off, and we can say that a lot about Tottenham Hotspur at times. But I think that's where the struggle comes in. Postecoglou basically is coming in like the mad scientist. He's saying, look, everything you've learned, unlearn. I'm teaching you a whole new way. This is the future. And I think many people are sort of struggling with that to a large degree. But I sort of agree with you. I do think he is a bit of a genius. And look, I think he very well could leave Tottenham, go somewhere else and have major success, and we could regret it to a large degree, because I'm seeing a pattern with managers come to Tottenham. They come here with big reputations off the back of winning things and everything else. They come to Tottenham, they leave here clueless. But when most people leave Tottenham, they go on to end up succeeding. So I think the problem is more Tottenham Hotspur and not Ange Postecoglou, Sergeant Stressful. But I think that's a great comment, and I think a lot of people tend to agree with you in the chat there. Very, very well put. To be honest with you, you're a lot more articulate than me. Hopefully what I have said does make sense to you, Sergeant Stressful. Big yourself up, my man. Really appreciate it. We'll take a few comments as well. Richard Freckleton says we need to learn how to defend, and it is clear that Postecoglou doesn't work on organising the defence. We are too easy to play against defensively. Toxic Headshot says Ange Postecoglou doesn't give a shit about Tottenham Hotspur. Ange Postecoglou is not important. My club is. Brian Timlin says these issues are to be expected. The scale of the job is large. There is progress on details this season. We need to stick with Ange, let him develop the team. Dave speaks a lot of sense about football. Look, I don't know whether I do or not. Like I said, it's just my personal opinion. To be honest, I know I'm not the most articulate. I just hope people can sort of understand the point I'm trying to get across. DJ Green alert, Andrews have fought for thinning down the squad on the year we got into the UEFA competition, Thursdays and Sundays. You need a bigger squad. We've got this Tin 61. We don't learn, though, do we? Brighton and now Palace think they are probably the worst I've ever seen under any manager. It's not going to get better. Look, let's not forget, it wasn't so long ago we had Conte, who we were losing on the likes of Ennis Moore and stuff like that. And I've always maintained stuff like that I don't really put down to the manager. I put down to the desire and the application of the players. Then Crocodile says, my issue is the reaction in the media to the Brighton game by both manager and players, only to do even worse against a winless Palace. I need a convincing win against the top opposition to believe. And look, that's one thing I've always said, despite me, believing in Ange, I've always said, and I think Hotspur Hood would probably vouch for this, that, the common denominator where I do see ground with someone like, Hotspur Hood, who's in the chat, is that, the next step we do need to take to try and convince people going forward is taking that step to beat teams in the top end of the table. Even when you get deep in cups, you're going to play teams at the top end of the Premier League table in domestic cups. We have to learn to win them games if we really want to take that next step to become, challengers for trophies and stuff like that. I do reconcile with that 100%, Crocodiles. But I agree with you. But again, it's hard to know, because there's only so much Ange Postecoglou can do in terms of preparation tactics. And like I said, I do think he got his tactics wrong. I can apply that to him for the Palace game. I can't for the Brighton game. But where does the personal pride come in for the players not to allow this to become a repeating team? And I do think, if you've got the right 4 or 5 leaders in there, they're putting this message across. They don't allow it to happen. It feels like when we go on winning streaks, we become very complacent. Our egos get out of control and we think we can just rock up on not work hard and get the result, which is not the case. And that stinks to me of a club or a dressing room that doesn't have the right leaders to say, no, this shows we have the potential to do it, but the hard work starts now. And I don't think we've got players in the squad that can say that, Crocodiles, to be quite honest with you. But big up, keep getting your comments in, guys, as we keep getting the guests on, and we'll keep getting through them. Let's get the next guest on. It is the one and only Eugene. Big up, Eugene. How are you, sir?
Hey, what's up, boys?
Good to see you,
hanging in
Eugene.
there.
How are you
Hanging
keeping?
in there.
What have you made maybe of the last few things that we've been speaking about when it comes to maybe the divide on Ange Postecoglou and the fan base? A lot of people think he's the guy, he's the one that we should be patient with. He's building something here. And a lot of people feel like the writing's been on the wall for some time now with Ange Postecoglou.
You know what? I don't want to be a bad guest, but I'm just so bored of this Ange discussion. It's like every single game we win, Ange is a genius, great subs, turn momentum, we lose, Ange out. It's so extreme.
Can I ask you though, Eugene, does that sort of come from the streaks that we've seen, right? Last year, for instance, we went on a 10-game winning streak, then we went on a poor streak, then over, I think, the Christmas period or in and around that, we went on a 9-game sort of streak, then we went on a piss-poor streak again. Start of this season, we sort of started poorly, then went on a good streak. Is the sort of divisive nature because of the sort of streaks that we're seeing, and that we can't seem to put a good, consistent sort of run together?
It is, but I think it's bigger than that. I think every manager that comes in has this weight of 24 years on their shoulders, right? It's not just about this season or last season. It's just the weight and the frustration of the fans for us not winning in decades. And I think, Jose, Conte, Ange, whoever comes in next, if we don't win, after one bad spell, all the fans are going to turn on him. That's just the way it is, unfortunately. Is it fair? No, but that's the way it is. So that's why when I say, I'm bored of this Ange discussion, I think, yeah, sure, you can argue tactics, you can argue different things, but it's like when Ancelotti joined Everton, right? He didn't suddenly become an idiot. It's Everton. It's like, Conte didn't suddenly become dumb. It's Spurs. If you look at the players that we have, I lost count how many times when Richarlison came on to be this impact sub, he's the guy who needs to actually help us get results when we're behind. How many sitters has he missed? How many headers at of games? And even yesterday, he had this open chance, and of course, he can't control the ball. And it's the same whether it's Madison or anybody else. Like we talked about many times, regardless of tactics, when the game is not going well, there's nobody on that pitch who makes a difference. Kulusevski yesterday wasn't good, but he's been good all year. But players like Madison, Romero, they're invisible. So yes, you can argue Ange, but I honestly feel like you can bring in any manager. But when we have Richarlison, Timo, and a lot of, these players, nothing is going to change. So for me, I stick by what I said before. I would give any manager 2 years, see what happens. This year, I don't really care about the league. If we don't win, it doesn't matter to me. I'm all about the cups. If we get lucky, we win a cup, I'll be happy. If we don't, depends on how we lose, how we do. In the summer, I'll reevaluate Ange and say, hey, did we see improvement from year 1 to year 2 so far? Even though we might not be getting results, I do see some improvement on the defensive end. If you look at the metrics, we have improved, but results are not going our way. But end of the year is when it's time to reevaluate Ange and say, hey, was it a success or a failure? And see if we can bring somebody else in who can work with these players. I don't want to see another defensive manager where we have to get rid half the players again and we have all this deadwood, right? I do feel like Ange is, I don't know if we're going to win with Ange, but I do feel he's the start of this new era where when he leaves in a year or two, we're going to bring a manager with a similar philosophy. But again, right now, I don't get high or low on him. We're Spurs. We're going to win a good game. We're going to beat West Ham. We're going to beat even maybe Chelsea. And then we're going to lose to Ipswich. That's just the way it is. So that's,
I do know what you mean by that, Eugene.
But the players, but again, that's why for me, it's mostly on players. We have senior players that, again, when the going gets tough, they do not step up and they do not make their imprint on the game. And Madison, once again, he went MIA, and I'm just looking at him. And Solanke, he's running around, he does what he can, but nobody can pass the ball to him. Porro is the only person who can cross the ball, actually. And it's just, it's sad. It's frustrating.
This is a good question Dave has written, and you might not have the answer for it because a lot of us probably don't. But why do you think Spurs, are so inconsistent in these kind of performances and results? Like Dave said, we go on streaks and then we go on bad streaks. We have really great periods, and then we have a game like this that's just completely out of sight and completely unexpected. So why does this seem to happen under Ange?
I think it's mentality. And again, it's not just with Ange. With Conte, we lost a lot of the games that we're supposed to win. Southampton, West Ham. It's, again, you just see a pattern throughout, through all the years. So first you can blame the manager, but then it's like, hey, it's more than that. It's more than tactics. It's the mentality. It's like, it's not the first time when we were pressed by the position. It's not the first time. It shouldn't be a surprise to players the way Palace played. Given the quality of their players and our players, I was actually, when I saw them press us, I was happy. I'm like, hey, we should be able to beat that press and the game should be wide open. But for some reason, we look like it's the first time we're seeing it. And it's like, hey, is it tactics or is it just the players not being up for that game? They probably just thought, hey, it's going to be an easy win. And we've seen that before numerous times. And then the quality that's coming off the bench, you saw in that second half, is just not good enough. We had no offensive players on that bench to come in and impact the game. I was surprised that Ange took off both Madison and Kulu, even though they weren't having the best games. But when they were subbed off, we didn't have anybody at all to create for others. And Richarlison, just every time I see him, I just get angry. The amount of gimmies he misses. Terrible first touch, cannot control the ball. Wide open just for the header or the tap in, he can't even do that. It's like what are we doing here? If we have these players who we count on to make an impact, no wonder we're inconsistent. We don't have players who are consistent game in and game out.
No, I think that's an absolute fair comment. And, I think there's been a lot of questions about a lot of our players, right? Doji, how good he's been, and then how bad he's been for a run. Romero to a large degree, Madison as well. Bentancur, not a lot of consistency there. Basuma, I think you're absolutely spot on in that to a large degree. Let's take this from Tin Man 007, Eugene. He says, I've backed Ange up until he re-signed Werner. Totally fed up now. Ange is looking more amateur week by week. But the ownership is the main issue, and until fans realise this, the better. Or as soon as fans realise this, the better. What would you say, Tim, man?
Look, we're always being told that we're open defensively, that, and which is not the case. And yesterday, our issue wasn't defensively, it was offensively. And that's where our strength is supposed to be. So we can't just pick and choose every single week, and use the same narratives. So again, for me, it's not necessarily tactical issues. It's execution and in-game management from Ange. But again, when he looks at the bench and he sees who's available, there's not much to pick from. And I want to push back on people I know. Dan E in the chat, big up Dan. But people who are saying, "Oh well, Ange brought in all these players. Look at the money spent on transfers." Look again, if you go, excuse me, if you go back in history, last decade, no manager on the Spurs buys players. They might say yes or no, but there is no way that Ange was given a chance. Timo Werner or Eze, and he picked Timo when he said he wants to win. There is no way Ange said, "I want to win," and then buy all the kids and not buy a top right winger. I mean, it makes no sense. So all these comments in press conferences, of course, he's not going to throw anybody under the bus. He has the players who he has. He's not going to pull a Conte and say, "Hey, like, all of them are crap. I didn't want him." So I don't take him, I don't listen to press conferences, and I don't buy the fact that, Ange brought in all these players. And the transfer fees are also not relevant. If you look at the inflation from a few years back, what matters to me is the wages that we pay, right? Not the transfer fees. If you look at the wages, we still do not pay top wages like other top teams do. If you want somebody like as a Nico Williams or any top player, they're going to want top wages. We would rather spend 50 million on a player on low wages than pay those top wages. So until that changes, nothing is going to change. We're going to buy kids, we're going to buy whoever for big money. But again, the issue is the wages that we don't pay. And until that changes, I don't see a difference between Conte, Jose, and and Ange.
And I'm going to add to that as well, because I think it was Jack Pitbrook of The Athletic put out something today saying he doesn't think that's going to change anytime soon, because apparently Spurs are still way off the top six's big spending power, despite the strides we've made in terms of financial gains and stuff like that, which I thought was an interesting read. Don't necessarily agree with it a whole lot. And that you basically explain why you're not going to see Tottenham put £100 million on a player like you've seen other teams do. But Tim, man, I think the one big issue we have, and I think what ultimately ends up leading to a lot of the managers' downfalls and stuff like that, is if we had a manager that we brought in and the board was following his directive, the manager can change the mentality of the football club. But when they're walking in and you've got a strong ownership or a strong chairman like we do in Daniel Levy in terms of headstrong, it's his way or the highway. It's very hard for any manager to come in here and change the mentality in and around Tottenham Hotspur, in and around the squad. Because all they're going to do is continuously butt and hedge, Well, as soon as Daniel Levy employs a manager, straight away, more or less after, he's looking for any reason to get him out of there because he's spending his money and stuff like that. And the biggest problem any manager has is changing their mentality. And that mentality can only be changed from the ownership. They hand out a lot of long-term contracts on big wages over years to players that did not deserve it. And then what you were seeing is players coming into the football club, not changing what we're seeing, and falling into that trap, falling into that lifestyle. Someone called it holiday Hotspur there earlier on, which I sort of agree with. Until the owners start developing a really rootless culture within and around the club, especially when it comes to players. And it's like, look, you've been here, a year, you're not pulling your weight. You've got up until January, or you're being bounced out of here. Until we start developing that rootless culture, you're always going to see the inconsistencies under a manager, because as long as the manager has to work with them sort of players, when the going gets tough, they're just going to throw them under the bus every single time because they don't want to work hard. So I do agree with you, that can only be changed from the top down. But until then, I think that's why to a degree, you do have to show managers patience, because they are fighting all the elements. It's basically like going out into a storm butt naked without having anything to protect you from it. They're fighting all the elements, Tim, man. Jack, anything you want to say to that?
No, I actually thought Eugene actually had a lot of really good points there about from just the wages over, we'd rather spend money on kind of talent, which doesn't technically come with high wages. I thought that was a very good distinction to make. And also the fact that, maybe, which is a point you've made in the past as well, Dave, about how managers aren't really the, kind of end all be all when it comes to transfers like we think they would be. And also if they did try to be maybe more, let's say, controversial with their owners, they would end up getting the sack much sooner rather than later. And they don't want that. They want to have some type of longevity. They want to keep their jobs. So I think Eugene actually had a lot of good points, kind of multiple layered points, if you will. So really
and just quickly, just back on the wages for a second. I mean, this year we cleared out like a million pounds in wages, like weekly. I mean, there was no excuse after all the clear out not to bring back top players. The issue is that Sonny's the highest earner, I believe, at 250. So they don't want to bring anybody else who makes more. And I know, Levy might be, now cautious given the mistakes of the past. But if you look at any top team, top 3, top 4 team, every team makes mistakes with transfers. The difference is when they make a mistake, they bring somebody else in. A mistake is a sunk cost. Like, you know what, it didn't work out, but that's not going to stop us from trying to get somebody else. With us, we'll make a mistake and Dembele or whoever else, and that's it. And then for 5 years, we don't do anything else. And like I said, the transfers, when you buy a player, you're going to recoup that money by selling the player. So it's not a risk per se. But wages, right, that's where the rubber meets the road. So until I see somebody come in on high wages, to me, nothing is changing. And again, you can bring in any manager you want, but given the quality of the squad that we have, it's not going to be good enough. And nobody can tell me that a manager at Spurs, whether it's Conte, Jose, or Ange, gets the players that they want. It makes no sense if you look at what they say when they join the club, what managers say when the season starts. About when Ange said he wants a defender in last year as soon as possible after we sold Sanchez, and the Levy waited until, or whoever, they waited until end of January or end of the transfer window to bring in Dragusin after we lost 10 games due to injury. Or this year when he said he wanted to attacking players early, and we wait until then. So just makes no sense to me that people would say, hey, Ange spent all this money. Like, no, that's just not the reality.
Well, look, I'm going to address that as well, because I think it's a bit of a misleading stat to a certain degree. But Eugene, thank you very much for your time and your comments this evening. You've been absolutely brilliant, smashing out the park. People have really enjoyed listening to your contribution tonight. Thank you very much, and have a good evening, sir.
Well done.
Thanks,
Eugene.
boys.
Thank you, sir.
Big up, Eugene. Really appreciate it, my man. Absolutely smashed that one out of the park. We need to get him on another pre-match build-up soon as well. Absolute legend. Big up, Eugene. And big up, Tim Man 007. Really appreciate the support. Let us know in the comments, your sort of rebuttal to that, man. Big yourself up. And I think this is the money that Eugene is talking about the 400 million under Ange Postecoglou. And look, you're 100% spot on. I think that is in and around what we've spent. But where it becomes misleading is the money that's being shelled out for Fiskovic, the money that's being shelled out for Bergvall, Archie, Gray, Elise, people like that. No one can sit there and say they're Ange Postecoglou signings. And I think that's where it becomes a little bit misleading. And that all that money that is being spent hasn't all necessarily been spent directly on improving the first team as best as they can. And then the second question is, you look at the money we spent. Have we spent it to the best of our ability, which is something I tried to highlight, coming off the back of the summer transfer window or coming into the tail end of it as well. I don't think we spent it to the best of our ability this summer. I thought this summer we had a real opportunity with the cleansing of the squad to add 3, 4, maybe 5 real quality first teamers into that and really kick on. And we didn't do it. We decided to go down a different route, continue bringing in youngsters. But if we are going to be fair on the money spent, no one, you got to take out at least 100 to 200 million that we have spent on some of the younger people in and around the squad that aren't definitely not Postecoglou signings and are 100% club signings.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
And we got this from Moondog, member for 35 months. Good evening, Dave and Jack. Big up, Moondog. Good to see you, sir. Hopefully you're keeping well, or as well as you can after yesterday's debacle, Moondog. Nowhere near good enough, lad. But good to see you, and hopefully you're keeping as well as you can.
Nearly 3 years of tolerating us. We appreciate you, Moondog. Congratulations on your anniversary. We appreciate you, sir. And yeah, hopefully we have a much better week this one. It's big game, so strap yourself in, get the bets in, Moondog. Hopefully maybe you get a bet land or two to make yourself feel a little bit better, because Man City on Wednesday and then Aston Villa, 2 massive games. Despite the really bad L that we just took, we have some big games to dust ourselves down for.
No, big games to dust ourselves down. Look, the week could either get better by beating Man City and pulling a result at Villa Park, or it's set to get a little worse and be a very long week, Moondog. So let's see how this unfolds, my man. But big up, my man. Good to see you in the house. Guys, we have had the link up there for over an hour. That's what we tend to do. if you do want to come on, have your say, we are going to leave it up there for the next 5 minutes for you to make it known you do want to come on. If not, we will be pulling it down and we'll take what we've got in the back end. But look, let's get on the guest. It is the one and only Rhino. We seem to have a back and forth every single week. I do enjoy them. It makes my Monday. How are you, Rhino?
Do you know what? I'm not surprised anymore, Davo, mate. I am absolutely not surprised anymore.
Why?
Why? Because every single week something else happens, and it's got to the point where now it's just ridiculous that we're not consistent. The only thing we're consistent in is losing, and to be honest, there's just no point in even trying to even get angry anymore. It's got to the point where you just don't need to even think about the weekend, because it's either going to be a win or a loss, right? Like, in our last 19 away games, how many games do you think we've won in the last 19 away games, Dave? Go on, tell me.
I think we've only won like 4 or 5 in the whole of 2024 right now. It hasn't been good.
Yeah, just throughout the whole of 2024, 4 away games all season. Hello, Ducky. Yeah, sorry, that was my cat. He just decided to walk from. But yeah, so literally, it's 4 wins from the last 19 games out in 2024. It's ridiculous.
And look, I understand, right? I understand, and I know you're probably going to blame Postecoglou for that. And look, he's been in charge in that tenure, so some would say rightly so.
No, but Dave, I'm not just going to blame Postecoglou, though. I'm also going to actually blame this on Levy as well.
Yeah, because I was going to say, we had a piss poor away record under Conte and Jose as well.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I just don't know where we go from here now, because Levy's not going to change, and we all know that.
Do you think he's going to sell?
He needs to. He needs to. It's got to the point now where he has to. He can't sit there on his ass with his hands literally, having a tiddly. Let's put it like that, because I was going to say a little bit more, but let's just call it what it is. And, just doesn't do nothing. He just really doesn't. He just doesn't. And it's got to the point where it's not just Ange. Ange has got a big part to play in all this. Don't get me wrong. But it's not just down to him. It's down to Levy, and it's down to God only knows who else. Amanda needs to get Levy out of this club quicker than you can say BS.
How would you feel if it was only a cash injection more so than a takeover? How would you feel? Because some would argue, and from leading to, what you're led to believe from the reports, Rhino, that even if it is initial investment, it's of the understand that's initial investment over years to a takeover. How would you feel about it in general?
I'd be pissed. Absolutely fucking pissed. And right, it's not even the worst part about it, Dave, right? If she's only coming in to invest in this club, it just shows the mentality of how much power Levy's actually got. And that's, no offense, right? This is how bad it is. I would rather have my baby kitten, right, taking charge of this, taking ownership of this club, because she could probably do a lot better than what Levy's doing at the moment. It's got to the point where you just can't. You can't just sit there and not expect it to change under Levy. Otherwise,
well, look, he's 21 years to bring success and 1 trophy. Sorry, Jack, go on.
No, it's just on the away form again. which is the big theme maybe from a game like this, and probably a bit sticking point for you, Ryan, on the away form. I mean, how do you explain the fact that we just don't seem to show up in these games? We lose our composure in these away games. Is it more on the players? Is it more on the manager? Because you look at Leicester, Newcastle, Brighton, Crystal Palace, except for maybe Newcastle, those aren't exactly the most intimidating of atmospheres or maybe the most intimidating of teams to come up against. And yet Spurs have dropped points in every single one of those. So is it down to the players just being too weak mentality-wise, or is it down to Ange not preparing them?
Look, right, Jack, this is where it's going to be a bit weird to say this, because Newcastle, for some reason, have always got our number normally when we go up there. So, realistically, if we take the Newcastle games that we ever play up there out of the equation, just give me the other two, and I can tell you it's weak mentality.
Mm.
And I don't want to say that it's just one sort of a problem, but it's down to Ange.
He needs to prepare them mentally, help them out.
He needs to do something, because if he doesn't do something, he's going to literally lose the backing of not just the fan base, but the backing of everybody.
Mm.
And to be honest, right, I don't agree with literally only making Son the most highest paid player in the club. I don't agree with that. Not in any way, shape, or form. If we want to be winning things, we need to be paying them big wages, whether he likes it or not.
Well, Levy was probably sitting there and saying, well, I have paid out big wages, but I think, he paid them out to the wrong players, quite frankly. And Ndombele, 200 odd grand a week. You know what I mean? That's a big wage, but you're paying it to a player that would rather go and sit down in McDonald's while there's a game on rather than get out there and play, And I think, that's where our problem lies. If we put the big wages on the right people and the right players, you probably get different outcome.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. With most of the best, take Naki Williams for example. Yeah, right. We put our money into him. All right, I know he's had a serious injury, right? But before his injury, I would have taken him.
Who?
Naki Williams.
Or Nico Williams?
Nico Williams, that's it. Sorry, why am I thinking it's
That's all right. He's got a brother.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Eugene maybe.
I would have took Chiesa.
I think a lot of people would have taken any sort of right winger over the summer that was at least one that we knew had been proven at one point or another at a big stage, or at least had, clearly a straight impact into the first team. And I think with guys like Wilson Odegaard, no disrespect to him, but he definitely falls under the other bracket of being someone that's more for the future, someone that's more eventually going to hopefully come good, not someone that we can necessarily judge for the here and now. And the problem is that these guys are being brought in to be basically here and now signings while also being ones for the future, which is something you can't really do at the same time. You have to put them as either one or the other, and Spurs just try to seem to gel the two or morph the two into one. They want to bring in young talents, but then also want to see if they can hopefully hit the ground running straight away so that they can save themselves a buck or two. And it's something that's come back to haunt us plenty of times and could be this summer as well. Rhino, any kind of final points that you might have, just on the outlook of, the season or just, the last game in general? Did you see this one coming, or was this actually a surprise to you to see, Spurs fall apart like this?
You know what? Do you know what, Jack? I don't even want to talk about that side of things. I just want to talk about the Man City game now.
Yeah. What's your expectation? What's your prediction?
Well, I've said this to both of you in the back, so it's got to the point where and probably you still disagree with me. Both of you probably still disagree with me.
We'll try.
Saying that it doesn't matter what team comes out because it's still a good Man City team.
Oh, I think your mic is kind of going there a bit, Rhino.
Yeah, is it?
Dave, is it just me, or I'm not sure. Dave is on mute for a sec there. Here, try talking again.
Yeah, no. So
Okay, there
obviously,
you go, much better.
yeah. So obviously, when it comes to it, yeah, right. I'd rather have the first team of Man City coming out and playing us, and us going out there and beating the best Man City team that there is.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the way that I see it, because yeah, it's Man City, right? And people are going to turn around and say, well, Man City, any of their teams are really good. Bullshit. Well, I want to be playing the best Man City team that you can possibly get, and the best Man City team is the first 11.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'll put in a good word for Pep Guardiola. Hopefully he can give us a better test than what the second team might. But Rhino, thank you for your time, sir. Thanks for waiting patiently to come on. And hopefully I get to rub in some happy clapping next time we come in and see each other next week.
I guess it looks like I'm the one rubbing it in for you this week then, Jacko.
That's okay. I deserve it, Rhino. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for waiting. And we'll see you next time.
All right, mate. Cool.
See ya. Come on, you Spurs. Big up to Rhino, everybody. We're going to keep this show moving, keep it on the go. But let's see what we have next. I think it's Tyler. No, it's Michael, and then Tyler, and then Alan, and then Adrian. Michael, you're up next, sir.
Yes, I am.
Hey, Michael, how are you?
Yeah, all good, all good. Spent
Well,
the day with the girlfriend, and yeah, overall, had a great weekend. Plenty of partying. It just so happens that many of my friends were all born in October and November, including me. So we have 2 months of every single weekend partying. So yeah,
Well,
a
I'm
bit
very
of a different vibe compared to the rest of the year, but
jealous of the lovely weekend you had with the missus, the lovely weekend you had with your friends, partying. Sounds like the only thing that maybe ruined it slightly, but not even possible by the sounds of things, was Tottenham Hotspur. But Michael, I'm gonna have to bring you down a little bit. We'll have to talk about that Crystal
yeah.
Palace game. A lot of people are fed up because they feel like this has been happening, where we go on a little bit of a good streak or get some good wins, and then something like this happens, which is just completely inexplainable. And Spurs getting really outclassed as well by Crystal Palace. What's your explanation for also the bad away form?
Honestly, I find it harder and harder to try and make sense of what we are seeing with this team, and it's a bit it's really strange, Jack. Like, how should I put it? It's like I personally think that this team is better than what we are seeing. Or maybe let me rephrase it. I think this team is capable of being more consistent than what we are seeing, right? I think individually, when you look at players and their skill set and their level, and when you watch them play, I have a feeling that we, on paper, should be better. In my opinion, that's how I feel about this team, right? But it's not really coming into fruition. And the saddest part for me is that I think we are back to this type of Spurs team that I think on our day we can hurt like a lot of good teams, but on our day we can also lose to Palace, who haven't won a game in this season yet, right? So, and depending on like how you view football and what do you enjoy in football, that might be a better thing than, for example, what we had under Mourinho and Conte, which for me felt like more of a team with less variance, if you know what I mean. I think under Conte and Mourinho we were a lot more like stable, but we were not capable of like doing something like outplaying a team, right? I think we had plenty of wins under both Conte and Jose against like City and other teams where we won the game like 2-0 or 1-0 or something like that, but it's not as if we outplayed them, right? It's not as if we had 60% possession, plenty of shots off target, right? So many people didn't enjoy that, and I understand it, right? I personally am not like against playing a bit of a defensive style if you do it properly and if you take your chances and if you are like dangerous on the counter attack and you know what you are doing. So yeah, it's really hard to like make any sense of it, right? Because you see us like win 3-0 at Old Trafford, you see us win 4-1 against West Ham at home, And then we rock up to Crystal Palace, and as you said, it's not as if like we are unlucky or anything. I think Palace fully deserve to win, and this is for me like the thing that I struggle like the most with, right? Understanding how exactly it happened that we went from like slapping West Ham at home to losing 1-0 at Palace, right? And it's also as you mentioned, it's part of like a longer theme where we are actually trashed away from home, right? It's like, why? I don't understand. I understand losing, and even this season, right? I understand losing at St. James's, right? I know Newcastle are not the best team, but at their ground, they are.
You might have
solid,
expected that one. You were probably prepared to lose
exactly
points
right.
There. But Brighton and Crystal Palace so quick after one another, right?
Yeah, even with Brighton, they are playing a good brand of football. They are a bit naive, right? But still, I can stomach losing at Brighton, right? I think, and maybe not the way we did, but overall, like the scoreline, I can accept. I mean, I can tolerate it, right? But losing 1-0 to Palace, with all due respect to them, because I actually have a bit of a soft spot to Palace, right? I think I mentioned it plenty of times. I have a bit of a soft spot for Palace.
I think same here.
Yeah, it's not that I don't like them, right? But this season they haven't been great, and I think even Palace fans will admit it, right? And the way we lost at their ground was just pathetic. When I watched the game, it was like. You guys watch it too, right? So you probably share the same feelings as I do, right?
Well, Michael, just kind of I have a siren passing. Sorry, but like just in general, like what are your thoughts on maybe here, Dave? Do you mind taking the question? I have a big siren outside.
I don't know what question you're about to ask. Be brutally honest.
Sorry, it's passing now.
Sorry, I just had to do something for the missus.
Do you feel like, fans and the board were maybe quicker to turn on Conte and Mourinho, but do you feel like, with Ange, feels like people are giving him more time, less time? What do you think that is, that maybe fans were so quick to turn on previous managers? Do you think they've been quick to turn on Ange? What do you make of that? Even earlier, Crocodile had a super chat about how maybe he's getting away with it because of the style of play. Ange Postecoglou, that's why he's been under less pressure. What do you make of maybe fans already being so fed up with Ange?
I think overall, we as a fan base, I think I mentioned it plenty of times. I think we are a bit of like we are really unstable as a fan base. I feel like we go from zero to hero like the quickest out of any team in the league. I feel like we champion good performances and absolutely rip the team to shreds after a bad performance. I feel like many Spurs fans, and listen, it's their way of supporting, but I feel like many Spurs fans find it hard to find balance in the opinions. I feel like we go too far to one side and too far to the other side. And I think, especially with Conte and Jose, I agree. I, as you know, I was backing Conte until the end, and I said that sacking him was a bad choice, and the way that, or maybe the way we didn't back him in the summer, and then the way the things proceeded, I think club should have backed him, and this maybe would have galvanized the fan base under him. And I feel like he is still a class manager, even though his style is not the most enjoyable. Which, by the way, we can see he's 4 points clear on top of the Serie A table, right? So I still think he's
not bad for a manager that was outdated for the modern game, right?
Exactly right. And I think similar thing, Jose was kind of getting on with it, right? But I think the way we sacked him before the final was absolutely disgraceful, right? And I think I back what you said. I think that Ange is not getting away with it, but I think there is a lot more leniency with him. I think fans are a bit softer in approach because of the style of play, right? It's easier to stomach a loss when you have 65% possession and 20 shots, and you can then account it to being unlucky, or you can account it to the players lacking the finishing skill or whatever, right? Whereas when you get battered for 90 minutes and you lose 1-0 because Eric Dyer made a mistake, it's way easier to focus all your attention on the manager and the way we approach games, right?
Yeah.
But by the because like one
We
thing
need
I
Dyer
have to
back.
mention, and I promised myself I will say that, right? I have a gripe to pick with one of the players for a couple of past performances, and I don't know if you will guess which one I'm talking about. I wonder if you know who I'm talking about, and I think I might get a bit of slack for it in the chat. But honestly, Dominic Solanke, mate, you need to start shooting at the goal, because like this guy over
Jack's
past
going to
4
give
or
you grief.
5
Never mind the chat.
past 4 or 5 games, he's been registering like 1 shot per game. And I understand that you are tasked with getting involved in the build-up and all that stuff, right? But you are a bloody striker, mate. Like Harry Kane did what you are doing and still found a way to score goals. And I know you are not Harry Kane, and probably respectfully never will be, right? Because Harry Kane is like one of a kind, right? But I need my striker to start like at least shooting at the goal. I'm not saying you have to convert like 75% chances, right? But and by the way, it's part of me is frustrated because I have him in my fantasy team and he's not bringing me points because he's not bloody shooting at the goal. So like, Dominic, mate, I appreciate everything you are doing in the middle of the pitch, but I need you to start being present in the box, right? Because we've been whining about like Son not getting into the box when he plays striker, right? We said that we need that, clinical finisher. We need that guy to be at the end of the crosses or low passes, and we are not having it with Solanke in the team, right? Because he is not there, and it's not only like his fault. I think it's the way we approach it. I think we kind of like changed our setup to have Solanke more involved in the build-up, but I think Ange should, especially when Son is not on the pitch, especially when Son was missing, right? I think we needed that striker in the box, and that's my like one big thing that I picked out of like past couple performances, right? That
Can I ask you though, Michael?
Yeah, go on.
Can I ask you, are we putting Dominic Solanke into good scoring positions though? Because you look at Brennan Johnson, although he's scoring goals, I've always maintained, okay, but can he create goals? He's not a great creator of goals. You look at Timo Werner, well, we all know the problem we've had there. Maddison's been hit and miss this season. Does it come down to us actually providing a striker with chances, and we're not doing that, and that's why he's not scoring the goals right now?
Of course, I don't put all the blame on him, right? I think that there have been issues with how we approach creating chances and all that stuff, right? But for him personally, this is something that I noticed. I noticed that like even though we are swinging the ball into the box, right, he's not getting at the end of them. Even though we are doing like cutbacks, he's not in the box sometimes, like often to receive them, right? I feel like. And listen, he cannot do everything, right? I understand that he has his like limitations in terms of like he can be in 2 places at one time, right? That's obvious. But I feel like I would rather shift him a bit more forward and allow a bit more space in front of the box for Maddison. Whereas I think he's doing like the Kane role, where we have Maddison who should kind of be doing that role. So as much as I don't want him to completely be like Fox in the box, just hunting for tap-ins, I think I personally would like the whole team to change its setup for like to allow Solanke to be a bit more involved in the finishing of chances, not only creating them, right? That's I think the way I want to put it. Because of course, like as you mentioned, like Werner, fuck's sake, like and honestly, he wasn't like the worst player on the pitch on Sunday, right? When he came in, like 2 of the most dangerous crosses that we had were from him, right? So I don't want to like completely slate the guy, but I just have like I don't
you
like
have no
him.
expectations.
I'm gonna be honest, right? I don't like the fact that he's part of the team. So whatever he does, I'm kind of like, you silly fucker. Like, I'm watching you, right? And whenever he does something bad, it's like 3 times worse in my eyes than it should be, right?
No, totally.
But yeah, I don't think our wings have been like contributing enough in like especially against Palace, and that's not criticism of Mikey Moore, by the way. I think he was extremely isolated in that game. I think he was like physically bullied, but hey ho, he's a 17-year-old kid. Like that's expected, right? For him to be a bit physically bullied. I understand and I don't have as much of an expectation from Mikey more than I have with Werner, right? So, like,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
as bad as it sounds, right? But Werner is like 28-year-old, a man, has plenty of experience. So I still expect more from Werner, and he's not delivering, right? Johnson, he had a good scoring patch, but now like 2 games without scoring, and we kind of missed his goal against Palace, right? We missed something, right? Like a way to create something for him, right? So, overall, like a shitty performance. And if you ask me to predict City, I don't fucking know. Like, I honestly cannot predict it, because if Pep seriously fields his B team, then I think if we field our like close to A team, I think we can beat them, right? Because like he will probably play some academy kids and some suboptimal players in different positions, right? If he does that, right? But I think if Pep actually like has a switch of mind and decides, maybe I want to like fuck up Tottenham's season again, right? Then and field something close to an 18, then I don't really see us like beating City, even though they are not playing the best. But yeah, it's just the way of Spurs support.
It's the way of Spurs. It's the way of the Tottenham, Michael. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on. You always give Dave and I think, a bit of relief. You do a lot of the carrying, and you also have very good things to say. But Michael, we got some more guests to get through, so we appreciate you waiting patiently. And thanks for always providing a lot of sense, as you usually do. Thank you, sir.
Big up, guys. Have a
good night,
show.
sir.
Nice week.
Have more fun partying with your friends and girlfriend. I'm very jealous. We'll see you soon, Michael. See you, man.
See you soon, guys.
Enjoy yourself, lad. Have a good one.
Well, Tottenham Hotspur did not ruin his weekend, it sounded like. He had plenty of fun things that he was doing instead of watching Spurs on Sunday. But we're going to keep this show moving, keep it rolling, everybody. I actually just wanted to give a quick cheeky plug, since we're actually halfway through the stream anyways. But tomorrow we're doing a little breakdown of kind of the game tactically, doing some screenshots, taking a look at the tactics board, as well as doing some player ratings tomorrow over on that Big Up network. So if you want to follow us over there, we'd be very appreciative of it. You just also really help out the channel and everything that Dave and I are doing over here by heading on over there and just engaging with us and having a chat with us and just participating along. Just giving a little chat or a little plug for that while we're halfway through the show. We're going to keep this moving, Dave. Tyler, he's up next. The Big T. Let's bring him in here. What's up, Tyler?
Big up, Tyler. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, good. Long time no speak.
Yeah, it's been a while, Tyler.
Yeah, I've not been wanting to talk about Tottenham, honestly. It's even from the beginning of the season, I just had my
what's made you feel like
marks.
that?
The problem is, at the end of the day, we all know how many more managers are we going to blame? I follow with a lot with what you have to say, Dave, honestly. Like, it doesn't matter at this point. I mean, you see Conte, what he's doing right now with Napoli as well. How many people talked down on him, saying that he was washed, he couldn't do it anymore.
Yep.
And look what he's gotten Napoli to right now after they had a horrible season.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm so sick of the manager blame. But don't get me wrong, Ange does obviously deserve some of the credit here and there. You know, a lot of it is the in-game management that I have issues with, that he doesn't adjust and doesn't like to use substitutes, at least in the right way. But I've just been annoyed throughout the season. It's the same old thing with the players. For some reason, their mentality just is not changing. It doesn't matter who the manager is. There's something seriously wrong within the club, and you know, I'm not one to like be love you out like it's the end of the world, but like things have to change at some point. I mean, this is getting ridiculous.
No, 100%. I fully agree with you, Nick. Like I've always said, the mentality is the hardest thing to change at Tottenham, and as a manager, unless the owner's giving you full control and he's following your directive, it's hard to change it if the owner's, stuck in his ways and, you have to follow his directive. It's really hard to change that mentality going forward. Look, we can sit here, we can sack another manager. At the end of the day, I see the telltale signs. We're getting worse the more we keep hiring and firing managers, the more mess the squad gets into. I feel like now we're finally in an era where we've got a squad full of technical players, which is good. Now it's about building on from that. Over time, your sort of leaders will emerge. You might stumble across one or two in the transfer market. And I do think things will get better. It's just, do we have the patience to stick through it? Because someone said something earlier on, Tyler, where they're sort of they said they're sick of the words of rebuild and be patient and stuff like that. But I'm like, but when you're hiring a foreign manager every 14, 16 months, you're not being patient, are you? You know what I mean? You're just making the problem worse. And ultimately, I've used Everton as my example, and we keep going through this policy. Eventually, we will be down in the bottom half of the league, and people will be scratching their heads, what's gone on and that. And it's like, well, if you don't have continuity and a settled squad, settled sort of thing, and especially it's been proven at Tottenham when you had, when I look at the progressions, we had the Dutch guy, what was his name, Martin Jol, we had Harry Redknapp, and then you had Pochettino, all in the job for a consecutive amount of time to be able to implement and bring them sort of process and bring the club forward. But look, do you think the style of play that Postecoglou employs, that's another big sort of thing around the fan base about the style of play, Tyler? It leaves us too open at the back, we're too gung-ho going forward and stuff like that. Do you think that style of play will win something at Tottenham Hotspur or at this level?
Yeah, I mean, with the style of play, obviously, it is obviously more entertaining to watch, but that high line, I mean, we are just really exposed. Like, I know we only conceded 1 to Crystal Palace, but I mean, Eze was having his way. If he didn't flop in the box, he should have put that away. I don't know why he flopped like that. That was embarrassing. And then he took another crap shot that Vicario let through. I don't know, somehow ended up being offsides. Luckily, like we're just getting opened up. So many mistakes. We're trying to play out the back when they're high pressing. I mean, these are fast, athletic, talented forwards they have. They're completely disrupting us. I mean, we made Will Hughes look like fucking, I don't even know, like the greatest midfielder you'd ever seen. The way he was getting on the ball, screaming at everyone on Palace. I mean, we need players like him. Obviously, we need more quality, but with his mentality, I mean, when he got subbed on, he was yelling at all of his players, getting the emotions going, and they performed well. I mean, we need more leaders. We just don't have any right now. We really don't. And I love Son, but even when he's on the pitch, we still have these games where the mentality's not there, that we're just getting destroyed, and we're not changing anything about it.
No, 100%. And do you think the leaders will emerge out of the current group we've got, or do you think that is something we will have to actively go and look for in the market?
I mean, I think we really need to start, putting some money into some veteran players that actually have won things, that have carried their teams through mentality and hard work, not just pure talent. We need these mentality monsters. I love what I'm seeing out of Vicario with how emotional he plays, and him apologizing to the fans. But at the end of the day, our goalkeeper cannot be the leader. We've seen it already with Lloris. It doesn't work. It just does not work. You need guys on the field, in the defense, in the attack, in the midfield. You at least need one in each category that can lead this team, can lead those players, and that players that want to follow and take and follow with their leadership. And we're just not seeing that at all. We just aren't.
Spot on, Tyler.
No, 100%. I fully agree. And, a question, have we had that right leadership for quite some time? When you see the manager turnover, the coaching turnover, the amount of times we've crumbled. And to be honest, it doesn't matter whether it's Crystal Palace, NS Mora, it really doesn't matter. We crumble at the best of times. And I wonder, have we had them leaders for quite some time? And with poor leadership, you continue to see the same things. You continue to see the high manager turnover. They always say, and I listen to a lot of ex-players, they always say, for a manager to really work out, he's got a strong leadership group. And at times, they dish out the bollockings for him. They dish out the messages for him. So it's not always coming for him, which then creates friction between him and the squad and stuff like that. When you've got players that are willing to stand up and do that, it sort of protects the manager to a large degree and sort of makes them players fall in line. But Tyler, what do you think is contributing to our away form? Because that is one thing you can't get away from under Ange Postecoglou, whether you like him or not. The away form this season, Leicester capitulated from a winning position, Newcastle capitulated, Brighton capitulated from a winning position. I think Newcastle was at home, maybe was it? Maybe it wasn't. And then also Palace at the weekend, we've lost 1-0. What is our problem with going away from home?
I think at first it starts with the mentality, and not just of the players. I think Ange too. He's way too stubborn. You cannot go into these places thinking you're just gonna play them perfectly off the pitch with giving average effort. Like you have to work your asses off every single game. This is the Premier League. Every single team has quality. They can turn up on any single match. And look, if we end up playing like that, we go to Istanbul against Galatasaray, they're going to absolutely destroy us and make us look pathetic. I mean, you cannot go to these away grounds and act like you can just, walk around like nothing's happening, just pass it around sideways and think they're going to eventually open up. You have to be aggressive. You have to get on the ball. You have to dictate the game yourselves. You can't rely on the other players sometimes. Sometimes you have to get the ball yourself and create something on your own. I mean, we just don't have any of those players. The closest one to it is Mikey Moore, and he's freaking 16, 17. Why and Madison will do it sometimes, but I mean, he does shy away a lot of the in a lot of games.
Yeah.
Like I just don't get how we have no one that will even try to take over a game. Like
Mm.
Are the
no one
players
in
going
the
in too intimidated or just too overconfident then, Tyler, like into some of these away games? Are they just going in they're going in with the wrong mentality, but what type of mentality is it? Just being naive or just being overconfident, being intimidated? It's hard to know.
they see Palace hasn't won a game all year. Okay, maybe we can
Yeah.
cool it off a little bit. Maybe we can take it a little bit easy. No, that's not how it works, Like Glasner's proven to be a pretty good manager. I think they've gotten really unlucky this season, honestly. They have a lot of quality in that team. Losing their best player, Elise, obviously, hurts, but I mean they still have quality in that team.
Yeah,
Mm.
no, I know what you mean. It does feel like though it has to be some sort of type of consistent type of mistake that they seem to be making, either just overconfident going into these games or maybe just not fully aware of the importance of games like these, away from home. Um, but what do you think is kind of causing maybe the lack of fight from some of the players to get back into it, Tyler? Is that just down to a lack of leadership as well? Because it felt like, yes, Crystal Palace, they were completely outplaying us, but no one's really, pulling each other together. So is that just down to leadership?
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to I genuinely don't even know what to say anymore. It's so confusing every single season, We have these patches where we're winning, playing well. The players start to look like they're, buying in more to the system. Their mentality seems to be getting a little stronger. They're working hard, and then all of a sudden they just hit a brick wall and they just absolutely capitulate. It's every season. I don't know how this keeps happening, but I mean, some things have to change around here. I think
Mm,
we need to start buying players with more experience,
yeah.
even if that means putting some more money down, like Eugene was saying,
Mm.
into
Mhm.
wages and not just the transfer budget itself. Because I mean, you spend that much money on Archie Gray, and he's only played in a fullback position where he's gotten absolutely torched every single game. He is not a
Mm.
defender. I'm sorry. We have to start playing these players in the actual position. Again, on Ange, what? How can you ever leave Jed Spence out of that team? I really don't understand that. We needed a fullback. He's been
He's injured at
performing. He
the minute,
performed.
Tyler. He's
No, I
not
know, I
playing.
know. No, but I'm talking about the Europe, like leaving him out of the European squad.
Oh,
We needed him
yeah,
in
yeah.
that. I don't understand why we're
Mm.
instead of bringing him, we have Archie Gray playing fullback. He's been destroyed every game defensively, so I just don't understand honestly. We're bringing
Mm,
Mm.
four goalkeepers. I will
Mm.
give credit to Forster, by the way. I was absolutely talking so much shit about Forster. I was so shocked he was starting. He was man
Mm.
of the match by far. So I will give some credit. I don't think he should play again, honestly, but I will give him credit. He played really well, honestly, in that game.
Doesn't that make that result even more frustrating though?
I
Was
think
that there were a considerable number of players rested on
Yeah.
Thursday night and then they didn't show up on Sunday, Romero, Van de Ven included?
Yeah, I mean, even in the AZ game, we didn't play good. We didn't play with
No,
a
we
lot
didn't
of
play that well.
energy. They didn't look like they cared that much. They were happy they got the goal, and they're like, okay, who cares? I mean, yeah, we subbed on more. I like the Ange subbed on the more experienced players, but then they get on the pitch, they don't give a shit. I don't understand. We're only 1-0 up. They're acting like, we're 5-0 up, or even against Palace, we're 1-0 down. They were acting like we're 5-0 up. Like it's crazy to me.
Yeah.
I like I hate that I care more about the club and winning stuff than the actual players. It it makes me like, why do I care so much? Why do I get worked up? Like it's just become laughable, honestly. Like during matches, it's been easier just to start laughing at it than honestly getting upset. It just
Or
doesn't
like you
make
said, it's
sense.
become confusing. It feels hard to come up with an explanation each and every time. When things like this seem to repeat itself, it's difficult to try to explain it every time. I think you're spot on about that. Probably why Dave and I always look so just just down of energy, because we have to try to sometimes explain things that we don't really much understand ourselves. But
I don't know how you
Tyler,
guys do it, honestly. I really don't.
great
It's
calling,
hard
man.
sometimes.
Did you have any final things you wanted to get off your chest? But honestly, great calling.
The final thing is, I mean, something's got to click eventually, hopefully, with these players. They have to realize who cares what the manager thinks, who cares what the owners think. We have to go on this pitch for our fans and try our asses off and just play football. Sometimes you got to forget about the system. Sometimes you got to take over yourself and realize the game's slipping away. We got to change something. We got to lock in. We get like I just don't understand. I mean, we're playing Man City next. Whether they play the A, B, C, D team, the mentality at Man City is so high that I'm sure it'll be very tough to get a result. I hope we can get the win. Honestly, hopefully our players change things around, but I highly doubt it. Honestly, I'm really fed up with it, and I'm not Ange out. I want to back Ange. Um, I'm done giving up on managers like immediately and stuff. And I know he's had a while now, but I do like, a lot of the stuff he does, but it's just really demoralizing altogether. Hopefully they can turn it around and, we can get the energy back up.
No, 100%. 100%. Look, what I will say is a week is a short time in football. It wasn't so long ago when we were losing games. I said that. We went on a seven game win out of 8, so a week can be a very short time of football, and hopefully we can do something against Man City. That would certainly lift the spirits. But look, Tyler, I know I don't speak for myself here, but it's been an absolute pleasure to have you back on. You bring some great points. And don't leave it so long next time, please.
All right, I'll
Look
try.
forward to playing you in FIFA, Ty.
Sounds good. Yeah, let me know. Let me know if you guys end up getting on pro clubs tonight. I'm gonna head to the gym after this, but
Nice,
Right.
man. Me too. I will.
Will
Appreciate
do.
you.
We'll
Thank
do.
come
you,
on, you
Tyler.
Spurs.
Come on, you
Come on, you
Spurs.
Spurs.
Good job,
Big up,
Tyler.
Have a good
Tyler.
one, guys.
Guys, how nice was it to have Big T back? I've been at him for weeks now. You got to come back on and have you saying, look, I fully understand it. I fully understand why he sort of stepped away for a little bit. He's just fed up with the same shit, the same conversations around every manager. To be honest, we have Ange Postecoglou now. I think this is where Tyler's right. People say, oh, he's too gung-ho. It's suicide football. The high line is a problem. But when we had Conte and Jose Mourinho, all defensive football is a problem. We sit too far back. We need to play to our best assets at Tottenham, which is going forward. We need to play the Tottenham way. It's just, it seems like we'll find any excuse to find the manager, to make the manager look like he's got no clue, regardless of the stature of them in the game, regardless of what they bring, what sort of formation they bring, style of play, etc., etc. We'll always find a way to tell them that they're wrong. And I agree with it. Sometimes it does feel like you're going around in circles, so I do not blame you, Tyler. But it's great to have you back, my man. But look, we're going to keep this moving. We are down to the last two guests of the evening, and that is Al Rectus Madness, another one we haven't seen in quite some time. And then we will be ending off on the one and only Adrian Schrocco, who I'm looking forward as well to speaking to and hearing what he has to say. But let's bring him on. You might recognize this guy. We haven't seen him in a while. You might not with the beard change, but let's see. Big up, Al. How are you?
Hey, Alan.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Thanks for waiting patiently. Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, good to see you. How you settling into Seattle?
I'm settling as best I can. I feel like I'm still all over the place, but I am settling in, getting ready for the 9 months of darkness and no sunshine until the summer. We couldn't have any eagle wing recipes yesterday. We were getting everybody ready to come up with eagle wing recipes. It didn't happen, Alan. It was one of the worst performances we've probably seen, right?
It was, to my memory, probably the worst performance I've seen under Ange, possibly under, even Conte and whatnot. It was just a very bad day at the office. It really was. I mean, players that had been excelling, Diane Kulusevski,
True.
I would say arguably is our best player of the season. And he was terrible yesterday. James Madison had a bad day at the office, I think. Brendan Johnson really didn't bring anything. And our defense was abysmal. And this is a defense we thought we were talking about Toby and Yan again, in VDV and Romero. And everyone was off. And I got a feeling. I hear a lot about Ange, which I feel is kind of reactionary. It's easy to blame Ange because he's the coach, but I don't know how Ange makes that happen. A week ago we said, we see him beat Manchester United, we beat Brentford, we were going on a run where we were beating teams 7 out of 8, and everyone praises Ange for that, and then suddenly it's Ange out because we lost to Crystal Palace. I think it's the players' mentality. Players had one of those checkout days, when you're playing a relatively easy team, a team that had not won a game yet, and they kind of checked out. I think they had their eyes further afield, looking at Man City and Aston Villa, kind of prepping themselves up for that and thinking, oh, this is going to be an easy one. And it turned out to be anything but for them. To be fair, and I like Crystal Palace. They have certain players I really like. I wished we had purchased Eze. But we made them look good. We were, if this were wrestling, we were those heels that kind of put over the good guy. We made them look good. We really did. Our passing was dreadful. We hardly had a shot on goal. Our defense was dog meat. It was just terrible. And we made them look good. If we played against, one of these other teams that we beat, even for just a half, we would have scored a couple goals. We just didn't show up at all.
Yeah, not at any point.
And to me, that's, and I've talked about it before, team leadership. We're lacking it. Son, I don't think it was. I've questioned Heung-min Son as a captain, because I think while he can inspire confidence in his gameplay, I don't know that he inspires other players to do well in the face of adversity. Romero, I think, has gone silent. James Madison was talking a bit. I noticed he was trying to talk a little bit, but James Madison kind of has his own way of playing. He and Richarlison kind of they sell the fouls a bit. They like to play that game, which is fine. You need a player like that can kind of sell a foul, but I don't think that James Madison makes the best captain. And there just really isn't anybody on the team right now that will just take a step up and say, you know what, we all suck at the moment. How about we get our heads out of our asses and start kicking some ass? No one's doing that.
Yeah.
And I think Ange, as I understand it, Ange has his talk before game and at the halftime, but anything that's going on the field, he leaves it up to the players. So someone needs to step up soonish, because we can't have repeat performances like we did against Crystal Palace. And I think they were looking further afield. They were looking at Man City. They were looking at Aston Villa. They're thinking, okay, we got to really have our heads in the game for those games. And they just kind of coasted, figuring this is our first team squad, except for Mikey Moore, who's new to the mix. We got this one in the bag. Let's just concentrate on Man City.
Yeah,
Let me ask
what
you.
you had to say there, Alan. Yeah, Dave.
I definitely agree, and especially the last part, I do think they had one eye on the City game, and I think the fact that we thought we could go in there without Son, because according to Paul O'Keefe, it was precautionary, probably alludes to that. We probably got a bit carried away, and did have one eye on the City game. But is there anything? Look, Ange Postecoglou knows now that he doesn't maybe have the leaders that he really needs, to step up in times like this. Is there anything he can do himself to generate that maybe a bit more of that competitive attitude within the squad, or not allow them to sort of take their mind off games, and look forward to something else, sort of keep their mind on winning each game as they come? Is there anything Ange can do himself to make that happen?
It's tough. It's tough. I didn't play a lot of soccer in high school, but I did play a lot of American football in high school. And I know there was a conundrum we had similar to this. The coach is like, well, who's going to lead the team? And you kind of have to hope that someone steps up. There's only so much the coach can do. I mean, he's kind of got a lot of going on already. You know what I mean? He's dealing with defensive issues and set piece issues, and dealing with Levy, and dealing with everything else. I think this is on the players. They need to kind of have a meeting amongst themselves and to say, look, we were total dog shit, man. We were just terrible this last game, and we lacked the leadership. We need someone who everyone can kind of turn to. And I think of like a Van Dyke, someone like that who will step up, and even when the chips are down, will be yelling, will be getting in players' faces, will be getting them up, even if they wind up losing, and we just don't have that yet. I think Romero, there's certain players that have it, and the reason why I don't think Ange can do much is because I don't know that that the players would respect that player, other than the fact that the coach nominated them. You know what I mean? This is kind of like the players within the players have to come up with someone who they believe will lead them, with Ange's message, and lead them into success. So yeah, I don't know that there's much of that Ange can do.
Yeah, and that would be the way to answer, some of the lack of fight and lack of desire in some of these games, or just the overconfidence or cockiness, whatever it might be, going into these games. If we had someone that was obvious candidate, obvious person they look towards, to either reprimand them or to keep them well focused and concentrated, we need that person as soon as possible in the team. Lots of people had praise for Vicario after the game for maybe his apology and kind of recognition of that sort of thing, Alan. Do you think he's ready for that sort of type of role? Is there anybody that we have, or is there really just no one that you can think of or look towards at the moment to fill in and be that person?
I mean, I don't know that Vicario's the right person. Vicario's got a lot to work on. I mean, he's got set piece issues. He's got, he kind of, we see him kind of starting to push now on corner kicks. You see him getting crowded in, and he's kind of pushing other opposition players out of his way, which I don't know that he was doing much before. But he has his own things that he needs to work on. I'd rather him not try to also split focus and try to lead the team. I think that we need someone that's kind of excelling. I kind of look at like a Kulusevski, someone who I think has been our best player. I know he's not the first string captain for Sweden, but he is one of the captains for Sweden. And Kulusevski, I was very disappointed with him, more than anybody else, because he does so well. And generally speaking, he does well even when our team is kind of just floating by. He will put in a performance to make things happen. So I was very disappointed that he just kind of, he got an early yellow card. He wasn't playing very well. And, he really can dictate the flow of the game.
Yeah.
So if I was Ange, I would, if Ange wants to meddle with that, and I don't know that he should, but if I was a fly on the wall, I would hope that Kulusevski would step up and, make himself known that, hey guys, we played terrible yesterday. There's no excuse for it. And we can't let this happen again. There's their Crystal Palace. They were third from the bottom with 0 wins. And there's no reason why Tottenham should have lost to them. None.
Making a lot of sense, Alan. Completely agree with you. Just quickly on Kulusevski and Madison, Ange Postecoglou decided to take them both off. Was that a mistake in your eyes, or were they both playing so badly that he didn't have much of a choice? I mean, what did you make of the fact that he took off both of the creative guys?
Well, I mean, I have my opinions about certain subs. I would have left Mikey Moore on. I wouldn't have taken. I wouldn't have put on Werner. First of all, Werner to me does nothing, solves nothing, and putting him in any position just weakens the position. And based on his performances, having nothing to do with bias against him or whatnot. If you just go straight off of his performances, he adds nothing. Mm-hmm. So I would say putting Werner on for any reason is a mistake. To me, Kulusevski and Madison are the creative forces on our team, aside from maybe a Bentancur, and I think he waited too long to put Bentancur on. Would he wait till the very end to put him on?
Yeah, basically.
And which doesn't make sense to me. Everyone, including Ange, bad day at the office yesterday.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah, a very bad day at the office. And look, just quickly before we let you go, City game. What's your expectations?
As bad as it was against Crystal Palace, and from experience, I know because my football team, we've had games like that where we were looking beyond the game in front of us because we figured it would be an easy game in favor of our rivals, which we knew would be a much harder game, and we got our asses handed to us in that supposed easy game. But we did show up for our rivals, and we beat them. So I think they've had their eye on City. I think City overthinks us. We beat them, I think, more often than they beat us. And I think it's going to be a good game. I think we're going to beat City. I really do, because I think they're going to overanalyze. They're going to have to deal with our press, which is getting better. I don't like to think about the City game because the City game, it wasn't one or two players. It was everybody, coach included, that was just horrible. So I kind of write that off and say, you know what? I guess every once in a while stuff like that happens. Happens to the best team. Even City, has a bad day at the office. Arsenal recently had that issue. They lost to Bournemouth. I don't see why that would have normally happened. Just good teams lose to bad teams all the time.
It's balance.
It happens. But I think with City, I think we're going to do very well. My guess is they're going to play a B team, which for many other teams is an A team. But I think that we will be able to play our style of football. And my only concern is Ange's one way, which is just straight out attack. And I've said, I felt like Ange is very hard headed. I like Ange. He's very stubborn. And I think he has a point to prove with his style of play. So he's not willing to entertain other styles of play so as not to seem weak. Or to almost to second guess his own style. He has said if he plays the way everyone else does by switching up the way he plays, then he's like everybody else, and he doesn't want to be like everybody else. And so he's doubled down on his style of play, which, for better or worse, is what it is. But if we're leading 1 or 2-0, I don't know that continually attacking against a team like City is the right way to go about planning for a game. You know what I mean? It just, there's no harm in holding back and kind of parking the bus a little bit to defend that 1 or 2-0 lead against a team like City. Because if we beat City, I think we will win the Carabao Cup. I mean, really, because I don't know who else would put up such a fight like City.
No, 100%. I think Tyler said something great as well earlier on. You know, no matter what City team is put out there Wednesday night, they're all going to have that winning mentality. So it's not going to be
Yeah.
an easy test. But Al, I think, first of all, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for being very, very patient with us. And
Thanks for
look,
having me.
great. No, it's absolutely great to have you back around. You're an absolute great contributor. And people, please check out his YouTube channel, Team Tottenham Go. Make sure you get over there and smash the subscribe button. And look, hopefully we see a lot more of you around here. We like what you have to say, my man. Appreciate your time.
Looking forward to it. Yes, I plan on it. Absolutely. Great to see you both.
Have a
Take
good
it
one,
easy,
Alan.
guys.
Enjoy yourself.
You
Thank you,
too.
sir. Hopefully you have a
Bye,
good
man.
start to the week. Better start to the
Big
week.
up, lad.
See you, man.
Yes. Big up and come on, you Spurs.
Come on,
Come
you
on, you
Spurs.
Spurs.
Good man.
People, please do get across to Team Tottenham Go. Smash
guy.
the subscribe on his channel and watch his content. Absolute brilliant man. You know, cooks a lot, goes on holidays a lot and stuff like that. So we don't get to see him as much as we would like, but it's absolutely great to have him back in the time of need and bring some sanity to my brain.
Yeah.
You know, after that loss. Big up, lesser known as well. Good to see you. Now we do have one last guest, and I will bring him on in just one moment. But look, I've seen something in the chat that I do not like tonight, and it's a shame actually, because the three individuals involved I actually really like. I've really, really good time for, and I think they're all really nice guys. Mark, Paul, and Jacob. Look, even if you don't want to respect one another, at least show myself and Jack a bit of respect by not having that back and forth in the chat. I get it. Times are high. People have different opinions on what's going on right now. But why can't we respect one another? You can still debate and get your point across, but why can't we respect one another when we're doing it? And to be honest, where I become disappointed and I find a little bit disrespectful is you never see me and Jack in other chats going after people, fighting in other people's chats and stuff like that. I don't like it, and I think it's absolutely wrong. It's disgusting, to be brutally honest. And I feel let down, and I feel really disappointed because, especially in yourself and Paul, Jacob. And look, we can have conversations about this, phone call about this, no problem. But the reason why I do feel disappointed is because you guys know how hard it is to keep an eye on the chat and trying to do what you're trying to do here, focus. Someone like Al, for instance, he's waited nearly an hour and 50 minutes to come on and have his time. And then I have to sit there and I can't really engage as much as I would like to with him because I have to keep an eye on some of the stuff that's going in the chat. I'm sorry, but we're all adults here. And we live in a world where everyone has difference of opinions. And the one thing that me and Jack always preach is you can have your opinion, you can disagree, fine. But at least find some common ground that we're all human beings and show some respect to one another. And even if you don't want to do that, at least show some respect towards myself and Jack and not do that. Because not only for the people on stream is it a nightmare, but also everybody else that's here that wants to engage about football, that wants to engage about what we're talking about. It's disrespectful to them. None of them want to see it. And all it does is when people see that, drive them away. That's all you're doing. And I find it, to be honest, I feel a little bit let down. Maybe my words haven't been correct here, but I do feel a little bit let down about it because I wouldn't go into your chats and do stuff like that. And to be honest with you, I don't really blame Mark for it either because Mark was here before. And I'm sorry, but I love you, Paul, and I love you, Jacob. But I do feel a little bit let down in that regard there, to be brutally honest. I just feel like whatever's happened elsewhere is starting to spill over into here. Yeah. And I want to stay away from it all as far as I possibly can.
No, bang on, Dave. I think we would like it if we can, if we didn't have this be like a neutral ground for people to, have falling outs over or anything like that. I think this is a place that a lot of people with different opinions do come with. And with that will come disagreements, but I think we could try to be a little bit better about it. And I think we could try to be a little bit classier about it than how we were.
To be honest,
yeah.
To be honest, I absolutely hate what I've just had to do there. I absolutely hate it because, like I said, I don't want to pull the two guys out. I really, really like the two guys. I really have good time for them. I just feel a little bit let down. And look, maybe I haven't put my words, and maybe you guys rightfully would be pissed off for me for saying that. But it just winds me up when we're trying to do stuff here, and then there's that side stuff going on. I'm sorry, I may be wrong, but that's how I feel on it right now. But look, let's get into it. Let's bring on the last guest of the evening, and it is the one and only Adrian Sroka from THFC, or sorry, not Spurs Till I Die. There's so many Spurs channels now. Spurs Diehards, Tottenham Till I Die. I will put the link in the chat so you guys can subscribe as we go along and have this conversation. Adrian, sorry I've had to bring you on after that, my man. I really do apologise. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for the invite. Yeah, and it's a shame when that happens. We don't allow it in our channel either. We just kick them, to be honest with you, Dave. But I mean, when you know people, it's a bit more difficult than that. Everybody screws up now and again. You give them time and all that. Yeah, I mean, I've come on. I want to actually remind fans. I want to remind you, Spurs fans out there, yeah, of what Ange actually inherited when he came to this club, right? For those of you that are Ange out and all that, I'm Ange in. I mean, my judgment that could change by the end of this season, but I'm Ange in, and I'll explain why. When Ange first came into this club, there was a lot of deadwood needed clearing out, right? He lost arguably the world's best striker, right? We came flying out the traps, win 10 games. Well, we don't lose for 10 games, 8 wins, 2 draws. Then VDV gets injured, so we lose him for a considerable amount of time. Bentancur got done by Matty Cash. We lose him for a considerable amount of time. Who's the other injured player? I'm forgetting the other injured player now. And then we also had a situation.
We had Madison out for a good period.
Madison out with his ankle for a considerable amount of time. Yeah, thanks for that, Jack. And then we also suffered Basuma having 3 suspensions, Romero having 1 suspension, players away on international duty, right? All unavailable. And never had, well, he still hasn't got a squad he wants now. All of that adversity he went through, and yet we finished 5th. Well, I think he did a very good job to get us 5th, David. Did a very good job under all that adversity. No one mentions that. And that's because, sad to say, some people out there have got an agenda that they're going to beat Ange and the club with a stick for reasons. And I've got my gripes with Levy. Don't worry about that. But it's something we talk about another time, right? And I have slammed him before, right? And
I've heard you.
Yeah, about the club's lack of empathy with the fan base, blah blah blah. But we're not talking about Levy tonight. So then we've had people.
You can if you want. You can talk about whatever you want to, Adrian.
All right. Well, fair enough. We got time. I'm the last guest, right? This could go on, guys. Set your alarm clocks, right? So, yeah. So when you start this season, then people say, "Oh, he's clueless." Hang about. This guy's been a manager for 20 years. If you don't learn a lot in 26 years, then fair enough. What's the person? He should have changed his job, right? And I don't care if he's done it in other leagues. Systems work if you've got the players. And just moving on to that, when people complain about the system, the 2 at the back, right? We come into the system. Ange doesn't adapt, doesn't he? I mean, the first game we played away at Leicester City, Son was on the left, Solanke was in the middle, Johnson was on the right, Basuma was punished for, pardon the pun, no laughing matter, right? So you had that. Solanke gets injured. What happens next game? And we had over 60% of possession. Next game, what happens? Solanke's injured. So what happens? Son plays through the middle. Yeah. Odegaard's on the left. Johnson's on the right. Basuma comes back. Next game, what happens? Well, Son goes back on the left. Decky's tried through the middle. Johnson's on the right. So he's tweaked things all the time. And during those games, we're having over 60% possession football. We're playing okay. We didn't get the points we should have done. Maybe that's a good thing long term, right? To have all this stumbling now, right? So we didn't get the points we should have. And each time we had possession. And what happens when, right? Like a team, and we go away to Man United, we win 3-0. We play at home against Brentford. They come at us and we beat them, and what are we seeing? Are we seeing 2 centre-backs on the halfway line? No, we are not. We're seeing 3-4-3. We're seeing 4-3-3. We're seeing, and last season, I did query the inverted fullback because it wasn't for every game. Porro used to invert all the time, right? Porro, and I like him doing it because it's a strength coming in, whipping them balls in. But you doggies more up and down on the left flank to me. So not really inverted fullback, So this season, I have my theory about why things have gone wrong. When I look at last season, when we started, we made midfield 3. It was Madison, Basuma, and Sarr. And Ange persisted with that. But through injuries, that changed in that first season. beginning of this season, I'm watching the pre-season games. I'm trying to think like I'm always trying to get an insight in the manager's mind by the team 11 he picks. Maybe it's specifically for one game, and the 9 subs, especially the 5 that are left out. There's no injuries or suspensions. You know, you can get a clue, and I'll be looking for that this season as well, right? Because you've got a fit squad, right? So then he plays them. I noticed in pre-season he started off. I mean, he gave a lot of players a few run-outs, but towards the end it was the same. It was Basuma, Maddison, and Sarr, right, in the pre-season friendlies. Then we come and we start this season, and like Decky is playing well, and now he's sort of a hybrid 8-10, so he gets his chance in the middle alongside Maddison, which was a surprise to me in the last game. Well, Bentancur, because Bentancur was banned from Uruguay, yet he's still Basuma had been away with 2 games for Mali, and yet he still went Basuma. That tells me a lot. He'd rather have Basuma. I mean, we don't know if Gray can play there, but he'd rather have Basuma there. So you know he would prefer a fit and an informed Basuma over a fit. And I prefer Bentancur. I think he's just a number 8 who gets us up.
I agree with you on that one, Adrian. I think Bentancur, in possession, gives us a lot more security. I think Ange Postecoglou, don't get me wrong, and I think it's been clear by some of the targets that Spurs were after and the reasons that they're after that sort of versatile player in that position that can get around the pitch, but is also good in possession. But I agree with you. I think Bentancur offers us a bit more stability. Okay, he doesn't have the same mobility as Basuma, where he might not be able to get up with play the way maybe Basuma does, but I don't think that's a bad idea either. I actually think that makes us defensively a bit more solid and less vulnerable to the counter.
He's faster than Basuma, though. This is the difference. Basuma gets you up the pitch, but he's not as quick as Bentancur. He's nowhere near as quick. And the thing is, if you were to sacrifice Maddison and you brought Bentancur into the side, for some games it will probably happen, then Decky would have to play as a number 10 because he'd be getting in Bentancur's way, wouldn't he? From behind. So he would have to play as a 10 and all that. But I got a theory on the midfield I want to run past you guys.
Okay.
I mean, when we
I love a good theory, Adrian.
when we play these games at home against teams that set back, then you've got like the Basuma, Maddison, Kulusevski's work really well, right? And any midfield 3 blend, which Andrew's got to find more than one successful midfield 3. We know that midfield 3 works. We know that midfield 3 that started last season works. But there's lots of blends, out of 7 midfielders we've got. So when we play in those teams, fine. When it got a bit sticky, we stiffened the midfield against West Ham with Sarr, right? I just think Ange has missed a trick in some of these recent away games, right? When it's fine when you think it works, so you're going to continue with it. But there's times you've got to change that blend. If you're playing a team that comes at you, which we like, I might make fans nervous when teams come at you, right? But I mean, because we get more space to play through them, and they do us as well, then that works. That's worked better for us. When we play teams, no disrespect to lesser teams in the Premier League, the less wealthier teams who haven't got the squad we've got, right? That they put extra bodies in midfield, or they got more dynamic, energetic runners in midfield, we struggle, right? So if we're playing Palace away or in poor form, then Ange should be planning ahead. And it's not a question of, I don't go with his leadership. Roy Keane said the other day, every player should be his own leader. If you've got to motivate yourself to be in a pitch for Tottenham Hotspur, get out of my club. Get out of my club now, right? Not having it, right? Now, you will get bad days at the office, whatever team you play. Fair enough. It's annoying. It isn't. And sometimes you can chew a piece of chewing gum till it's tasteless. And basically, you've got nowhere. You're still baffled and perplexed because you think, how can this team play so badly, right? You've only seen it at Coventry away, Brighton second half and here, right? So my think is like, when we're playing these more energetic teams with dynamic midfields, we've got to go in with a different midfield. If you don't lose creativity, you've got to put, say, a Bergvall in, who's got he's 6'2", he's more physical than a Maddison. I ain't saying get rid of Maddison. I love the player, right? On song, he's brilliant. But if it ain't going, if he got pissed off being taken off the other day, tough. Just tough.
Do you know what, though, Adrian? I look, don't get me wrong. Being pissed off, taken off, I can understand it from a player's point of view, but sometimes it's better to hide them things rather than show it. But
yeah.
I think it was probably harsh to take him off, actually, against Palace. I thought he was the one player in that midfield I probably would have left on and made the other changes around him. But I do think away from home, I think we should go with a double pivot instead of the one in that
two holding players rather than
two holding players. A bit like the way Pochettino used to play, because it still allows you to get your fullbacks up the pitch. But you've just got a little bit of extra security there. And look, if that means Maddison or Kulu has to miss out, so be it. At the end of the day, no player is bigger than this football club. We learned that when we sold Harry Kane and stuff like that. So I do think away from home, especially right now when we're incurring the problems we are, it is better to play that double pivot, and you don't necessarily have to negate your attacking style or your philosophy to play it, as we've seen against West Ham, right? You can still play it and still go and score goals and play on the front foot. So I definitely agree with you, because I think away from home, you have to fight and earn the right to play. It's not going to be given, okay, maybe the relegation teams will sort of sit back and, you can play 2 number 10s, but I think anywhere above that, I think you do have to go and earn the right to play. And I think that has to be first and foremost. And in order to do that, I think we're missing a trick not putting someone like Sarr in there to get around there, turn over the ball in midfield. And then later on in the game, once you've earned that right, then you can make the change and bring the 2 number 10s on if that's what's required.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also, like, I'll defend Ange in a way. I mean, I'm not into his head, obviously, but perhaps because those players have done well, he trusted them once in midfield against a dynamic side, right? Like Brighton, who came a second on, and it didn't work. He probably thinks, "Oh, bad day. I'll give him another go." Right?
Yeah, I agree.
But he should have learned now, after twice, right, that when we're going to play away, say we go away to Forest, who play a sit-back counter-attacking game, we'll have a lot more space. So you could go with that sort of midfield. So you see where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
But if you're going to go and play away against Villa, right? I know we beat them 4-0 last year, but they're just an example. A good team like Villa, right? Then, like you say, I'm for 2 holding midfielders, or giving maybe Bergvall a go because he's got a bit more aggression and he can stick his foot in and he pops up all over the field. He's going to be an absolute superstar for us, I'm sure of it. As will Gray when they're finally drip fed into the side in the right way.
I think with them guys, though, I think it is going to take time, and I think we have to realize that. And I think it's unfair on the fan base to a degree, because we all knew we needed more experienced players to add to the squad, over the summer. But the club went and brought 17, 18-year-olds in to sort of add to the squad. And that takes time, where Spurs fans sort of want it now. So I feel sorry to them for a degree in that. And I feel sorry for the youngsters, because that expectation is also on them, right? As soon as they don't come in and perform, they're sort of swept up in it. And I think sometimes you've got to treat these youngsters a little bit differently. Just quickly, Faz Radfar 3-1 Spurs. I'll be at the stadium on Wednesday to protect my 100% win record. Are you going, Adrian?
Oh, yeah, I'm going. Of course I'm going. I live a mile and a half from the ground. I'm really lucky. I live a mile and a half from the ground. So I
love that.
In 40 minutes. It used to be 30 minutes when I was younger. Right.
I get it. Look, I'm only 30 on them already, moaning about back pain and stuff like that. But Adrian, look, we do have to end off, my man. But just briefly, what are you expecting to see Wednesday night?
I think Spurs will win this game.
You think we get a reaction?
I mean, the three. I know we haven't had the best results the last couple of times we played them, because they knocked us out of the cup, beat us in the league first time. First time they scored a goal at the stadium, wasn't it? So, and we if you take the 3 teams we've got the best results since the Premier League was inaugurated in 1992, Everton are top with 31 wins. We've had Man City, believe it or not, might shock some of you, 28 wins, and then it's West Ham with 27. I mean, I just think we've got a number on them. They've upset the apple cart the last couple of games. This is a League Cup game, and anyone thinks we won't be up for this under the lights on Wednesday night. I mean, I'm going for 2-0, right? I think it'd be 2-0. And I don't care. When people say Ange will go weak or he'll go strong, look, I don't care how the opposition going to go with, I always look for our lineup before I look for any other team's lineup. And I expect the opposition to go as strong as they can anyway. So if they haven't gone as strong as I thought, well, that's down to them. They pick up 5, right?
That's how I feel too.
You can only beat what's in front of you at the end of the day. And what I will say is Pep Guardiola did say after these last game in the last round, he did say, we're not going to waste any energy on the Carabao Cup. We will be fielding some of the academy players. So let's wait and see what happens. But hopefully we do get to see a reaction. But guys, I think Adrian's been absolutely brilliant on the fan shows. You're more than welcome to come on anytime you want on these, Adrian. People, please get across, check out his channel. Spurs Diehards, Tottenham Till I Die. Get over, check it out. Lots of different shows, lots of various different opinions going on there as well. So make sure you get out and check all that good stuff. Adrian, thank you very much for your time this evening. Great conversation.
Thanks for giving us a link. Yeah.
No, thank you very much. Thank you for being very patient. Thank you.
Thanks for being patient, Adrian. Great job. Appreciate you.
I'm a patient fan. There's not many of us out there, Jack.
We need more like you, Adrian. We need some of your juice. We need some of that. Appreciate you, man.
I might be the only one. I might be the last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, you could be. You definitely could be, lad. Adrian, have a good evening, lad. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Really enjoyed that from Adrian, and I definitely agree with him actually about that midfield in terms of away from home for sure. Really, really good call. Yeah. And people, please get over, check out Adrian's channel and make sure you smash that subscribe button on it. Al Ben says club is too nice, buying too many nice players. We even took the toughness out of Romero. What teams doesn't allow us to play? We have no fight. Al Ben, I did say that at the time with Romero, you know, where people were asking him to calm down and not be as rash, and it's sort of like, I'm not sure I want to go down that route. You know, you take
strengths.
I've always said you take that out of the player, you take that edge off the player, and I think Romero is one of them players like Dele Alli used to be. When they're playing on the edge, that's where you want them. That's where you get the best out of them. You start to tailor them or tame them. That's when I think you sort of lose the player to a degree.
Yeah, I completely agree with that one. Well, everyone, I am just retaining some sense of hope that this was just one of those games where we take a lot of lessons from it. Everybody has to take blame. Everybody's responsible for the bad result. And then you just hope that Spurs can turn it around and get a good result either in the Aston Villa game or this Man City game. And we can hope that it was just like we were saying bad days at the office type of stuff, because you don't want it to be anything deeper than that. And like Adrian said as well, or someone else had brought up, that, you know, every now and again you will have just these games where the team is just outplayed, outmatched, and they just don't show up on the day. And that's what we're also just hopeful for. We hope it's nothing really much deeper than that at the end of the day. But I guess we'll find out. Huge game week. Just Man City, Aston Villa. Strap yourselves in, everybody. I know we're all kind of losing our heads, kind of rightfully so, after the Crystal Palace result, but we got to stay somehow strapped in because we've got bigger games ahead that we need to get ready for. And looking forward to it, Dave. Strap in for another week.
Yeah, look, we're suckers, aren't we? You know, even though we had a bad result the other day, we're still going to be there excited and giggly and flirting, you know, just before the City game, which I absolutely love to a certain degree. But look, guys, plenty more stuff coming your way tomorrow morning. Channel predictions will be out. Also, keep an eye out on our socials or in the community section of the YouTube page. Jack will post a link, and he's probably going to put it in here again before we end off. To join us tomorrow, where we will break down that Palace game. We'll go through player ratings, individual performances, and also have some screenshots that we go through and stuff like that. A lot of people who do join us say they really enjoy it. So the more, the merrier, guys. So please get across and join us for that. And then, of course, then Wednesday, the usual game day content. And then hopefully we'll also have a panel show for you tomorrow evening as well. So that's what to expect from us over the coming days. I want to say a massive thank you to all of the people that came on today. I really appreciate your time. And look, for carrying the load, because quite frank, I'm beat up after that Palace defeat. So thank you very much. I want to say a massive thank you to everybody who's joined us in the chat tonight. Really do appreciate it. Even if you do get on my nerves and fight with each other, I still love you all at the end of the day. And I really do appreciate the support that you all give us. Hopefully, we can just, look, ideally, I want us all around the campfire singing Kumbaya and stuff like that. But, you know, if you can't get on, at least just find some common ground, even if it's myself or Jack. You know, just find some common ground. That would be absolutely brilliant. Because, to be honest with you, fighting each other amongst the fan base doesn't actually solve anything. What we need is unity in times like this. So put the silly squabbles aside, because at the end of the day, I understand it, and I actually don't mind it, because it shows that we've got passion and we want the right things for this football club. We all just have different ways of getting there. Sometimes that can lead it to boiling over. I get it. But I do, at the end of the day, I find the common denominator that we all want right for this football club. So that's the good thing about it. And then thank you to all the people who's gone the extra mile to support the channel today. We have Crocodox, we have Sergeant Stressful, we have Tin Man 007, Moondog, and Faz Radfar. Really appreciate all your support, guys. As for me, I know you guys like to know what Dave's going to do for the evening, so I'm going to end off. I'm going to have dinner. My missus has my plate ready there, so I won't even be able to sit there and talk to Jack for 5 minutes after. I'll just have to shoot off and have my dinner. And I'm going to watch some Big Brother. I have to catch up on Big Brother UK. Your boy is a little bit of a loser like that. Doesn't mind some trash reality TV from time to time. So if there is anyone that watches Big Brother, don't be afraid to text me about it. I absolutely love the show, so make sure you get on to me for that. And yeah, guys, that's it. We'll see you tomorrow. Jack, do you want to let them know what you're at for the evening? Maybe a bit of FIFA later if people are good.
Yeah, hopefully some FIFA later. I'm going to go on a nice little run, do a nice little workout, but then hopefully some FIFA later, maybe a bit of grocery shopping as well. But would like to be able to join the crew, get used to playing with you guys, hopefully start building a nice winning team in pro clubs. But yeah, looking forward to it. Hopefully people can stay up for me later. But yeah, we'll see you later, everybody, tomorrow. All that good stuff. 2 streams at least, channel predictions, and plenty of other things. Also members previews. So at least 3 streams tomorrow. So get ready, everybody. We'll see you all tomorrow.
And just quickly, let's know, I do have your email there. I will read it tomorrow and I will respond to you, my man. Big yourself up. I really appreciate it. But guys, in the words of Timo, probably don't want to hear it right now, but Auf Wiedersehen.
Have a good night, everybody.